and you say you don't think it'll happen in Q3, I think that's a crazy bet.
Well, I don't know anyone else who predicts Q2. Um,
There's multiple responses saying the same, including Sawyer's post that I posted.
well, Sawyer also thinks that, I mean, no offense, I love the guy and everything, but he also thinks that Rivian will reach profitability. So, I mean,
What does Wes's numbers come to?
Wes, when do you think we're going to get to 2 billion?
I think before 8/8, definitely. But I think it will probably be sometime in June. And I think he'll announce it too.
Beginning or end of June?
Probably close to the middle, I'm thinking.
So I posted a breakdown looking at the different segments that are identified by the Chasm book and using their percentages and then assuming different take rates. That's I was wondering which parts of those you disagree with. Instead of just looking at the entire number as a whole, if you take it piecemeal, it might be easier to tweak.
I
Kind of
told you
like,
which parts I disagree with.
yeah, you said the first two. I was trying to open it up to actual conversation rather than just saying I disagree.
Wes?
Hopefully the noise in the background isn't too bad. Meta, what's
fine.
your date when we'll hit 2 million? I didn't see an actual date. Maybe I missed it.
I didn't do a date, but I did a calculation showing it would be before the end of the quarter. Let me see if I, based on those
No,
numbers.
that's fine. So you think it's the middle of June ish?
Yeah, or I think it was like 1.5 it came to roughly, so it'd be around the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my thought too.
Well, Yaman, now there's two people that agree.
Yeah, but Wes is not focused on it right now. He's chucking wood. If a woodchuck could chuck wood,
I already read through Meta's post earlier, so that's why I think the middle of June makes a lot of sense.
If a woodchuck could chuck wood, the woodchuck couldn't do math as well. So that's how the saying goes.
I feel like you really thought that joke was gonna kill, and so you had to finish the joke even when the facts
Of
didn't
course.
agree.
And it did kill. Look at all the laughs that we're seeing in the audience.
Those are pity laughs.
I think half the audience laughed at that. So let's see you crack a joke that cracks half the audience.
I don't think I've ever had one that makes half the audience laugh.
Just say we're gonna get to in June and people will laugh. You know what I noticed? Don't worry about it. Charity trades. How are you?
What do you? Sorry, go ahead.
So,
Yeah. When do you think we're gonna get to 2 billion miles?
oh, I haven't run that math. To be honest, the way that I view all of this, I really, I know that a lot of folks like to think on a very nuanced level. I'm not really interested in doing that type of math personally, because I'm much more interested in the emerging kind of story that's happening and the breakthroughs that have happened after years of building up this infrastructure around training and processing and planning. I mean, it's just been years in the making. And so for me, I'm
so,
like,
but we're focused on this right now. So we can
yeah,
get
so
back
sorry,
to that later.
I don't have any thoughts to contribute on that.
Wes?
So when the number is announced, sorry, I'm choking on a peanut. When the number is announced, when we get to 2 billion, do you think they'll have other data with it and show that other data? For instance, I'm thinking they could show how many accidents have been avoided by getting to that number. So like number of accidents that they can calculate that were avoided.
I don't think they will show that because I mean, unless they like granularly explain how they got to that number, and with very conservative assumptions, and it's like a stark difference between human drivers and FSD. Otherwise, I don't think it makes sense to show it.
What do you think of the fact that the trend for Tesla FSD search is 4 to 5 times higher than it's been in the last 5 years?
So can you explain to me exactly what that line shows? Is it the
Sure.
number of people searching for it, or does it include mentions in articles and stuff?
It's the percentage, so it's not the number, but it's the percentage of people searching for it relative to the most searches ever. So, like, you'll notice both graphs have 100. One graph is obviously over 5 years, the other one's over 1 year. So, the peak is set to 100, and you can see that's slightly after March 17th.
Okay. And then how accurate is that dotted line, the forecast, you think, usually?
I don't think that dotted line is a forecast. That dotted line is showing that that last dot doesn't have all of its data points in it.
Interesting.
It
I
ba
see.
basic Yeah, because the 5-year one, if you zoom out far enough, the last dot's not a full bucket yet.
Okay. So, I mean, I posted this a couple weeks ago when they first announced the free trial. And then with the free trial, it went up quite a bit and then it came down. And then if you look at zoom into that last section a little bit, so I've been tracking that a little bit in the last few days here. And I think Tesla FSD is the kind of phrase to track like you did, because FSD just gets weird results. So if you look at that, it went up a lot for a few days after the free trial, and then came all the way back, almost all the way back down, and then just went back up again in the last few days after they cut the price, but not to the level of a couple weeks ago.
Right, but
So
the rates are it went up to a number, then it pulled back 30%, like 1/3, and then after the price cuts, right now, it's sitting at a pullback of about 20%. It's not unexpected, right, that when announcement occurs, there would be some pullback. How much pullback would you expect?
I mean, first of all, it came back more than that, more than 30%.
No, no, it went from 100 to 66.
Maybe we're looking at it. Are you looking at US? Is that United States? Yes.
Yeah, look at United States past 12 months.
Okay. But like I said, if you look at more granular, so daily, so I'll pin
Oh,
the daily graph.
you're looking at, like,
No,
a month or something, maybe.
yeah, like 90 days, so the three
Okay, okay.
months. So let me just pin that here. Give me 1 second.
Oh, I see your point. The average is hiding because it was continuing to go down in that 7-day window.
Yeah, so check that out at the top. It comes all the way back down to um,
34-ish.
right.
So it pulled back 2/3.
Um, yeah, exactly.
But if you look at the
Exactly.
previous 90 days, the steady state was around 23. So it's still a 50% increase in interest at that low. And then another thing to think about is Tesla's obviously seeing this data. The interest starts to come down, and they pull a lever to try and drive demand up again.
Well, first of all, we don't know if search interest translates to demand. And then secondly, yes, I agree with you. So we'll see what that means for next week, you know. But obviously the biggest thing here is that search interest doesn't necessarily translate into purchases or subscription. So it's
Yeah,
just
but
one indication.
the fact that it's free, I would suggest, like, the reason why I think we have a little disagreement here is because it's not about how many new customers Tesla can convert, right? a cold call, if you will. This is a warm call. These are customers that already have the vehicle, and you just need to convince them to use a new feature within their vehicle that the updates have gone out for and that they have had bad experiences in the past with. Like a year ago, there was also a free trial. So one of the things I was thinking about breaking down that I didn't break down was if we look at the total number of vehicle owners that had their vehicles in July of 2023, I think is when they did the last free month trial, right? So we theoretically look at that and say everybody after that who purchased a car didn't receive a free trial unless they got it during the window when they started offering a free trial with purchase. But if you don't believe it's going to be something you keep, you may not try it with the free trial. Maybe you didn't even know the free trial was there. So there could be some, partitioning of the data there as well. But there's, as I see it, two segments of customers. The segments of customer, or sorry, let's say three segments of customers. The segments of customers that tried it when it was bad and stopped using it, but are interested in it, but they just don't like where it was. And I think that's a big chunk of the population. Then there's the segment of the population that is interested, but the price point was keeping them away. So they didn't even want to try it because what's the point of trying it if they like it, they can't afford it. And then there's a third segment that just is oblivious, doesn't know about it, doesn't care, or just doesn't want it for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. Right. The chart we're looking at is at the top of our screens and also on YouTube Live on your screens as well.
How would you break the population up of the non-FSD owners, but Tesla vehicle owners in those three chunks?
I think that's a big barrier. I think the number of people using FSD in a material way, whether they're Tesla owners or FSD owners or non-FSD owners, is tiny or was tiny going into this. So it's a bit of a guessing, like massive guessing game right now.
Yeah,
How many people will actually start using with the free trial? And then the other thing I want to understand is how does the process really work? So let's say I don't have FSD, so I opted out of it, okay, from purchasing and subscribing before, and now if so Tesla pushes something to my app and my screen in the car, right? How does that work? Does anyone know?
you have to go into this. So I do know. So when the software update comes, you get the release notes. FSD is not automatically turned on. In fact, if you create a new driver profile, even if you have FSD turned on, when you make a copy of that driver profile, the new driver profile does not have FSD automatically turned on. So you must go into the settings, go to autopilot, and then opt into FSD and accept the terms and conditions. And then you have to go and turn on auto set speed yourself. And I think by default, it probably picks like average or something like that. So the number of settings you have to pick has gone down. It used to be you had to pick the visuals, you had to pick this, you had to pick that. I think now it's just down to, do you want auto steer? Do you want FSD? So that's just one button. And then you accept the terms. And then there's the default setting of average or not. And then unfortunately, I think you have to scroll down to pick auto set speed. So I think a lot of people are going to experience it without the auto set speed because they don't know how to scroll down. But yeah, it's down to one button at this point. And then the single pull versus double pull, I think it now defaults to single pull.
But okay, I understand all that, but what I'm really asking is, so if I'm a Tesla owner and I have not purchased or subscribed to FSD before, how many clicks before I can use it? Do you know?
That's assuming exactly where you're going. I may have answered while I was on mute. 4 to 5 is the answer.
Yeah. And then do I need to enter any credit card information?
No.
Okay,
You,
so Tesla
the
already
the
has all
clicks
that.
are, you click the car icon, you click autopilot, you click FSD, and then I think you have to hit a box that says, I've read the terms and conditions, and then accept.
is there a screen that says this is a free trial and after 30 days it will automatically start charging you $99 a month?
No.
So what happens after that?
I'm pretty sure when the trial ends, it just likely goes away. I have seen notifications in the app when your premium connectivity is going to end, but I have never been a FSD subscription owner, so I don't actually have the answer to that, what the end of a subscription looks like.
Okay. We have Reggie coming up. Reggie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was in the situation you're asking. I did not have FSD. So again, we're talking about the trial version. So it does advertise it. So when you turn the car on, it advertises one to download the software, but once the software is complete, it advertises this car has FSD capabilities, and it advertises, do you want to try it? And then you click on that, and that is when you go to the what Meta was saying, the stages of one agreeing to it, two selecting your options, and then at that point you have FSD. So it's maybe 4 or 5 clicks, but it does advertise it at that point. Go ahead, Meta.
When you say advertise, are you just referring to the release notes pop up, or are you saying there's a different thing popping up?
There's a little side thing that pops up this on the left-hand side, if you will. It says, I can't remember it because it was a while back, but
It's like in the place where the voice pop-ups happen, those little cards.
It's the bottom left corner. So
yes. So when you press the voice button, the little card appears. Is it in the same location? Yeah. Okay,
right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and it automatically pops up. So you don't have to do anything special. It just says, hey, this car has FSD in that nature. I may have a photo of it, but
does it pop up every single time or just the first drive?
No, just the first time.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so it's just one time. Whoever gets in the car after the first update, and they might be in a rush. And it auto dismisses too, right? After a certain amount of time.
I want to say it actually kept it on there. You'd have to. I think you have to select it. I think you have to. It's almost like a prompt to select.
Like to dismiss it or
yeah,
accept
to
or decline
dismiss
typing?
it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's new. I haven't seen that before.
And it's much needed because it was, even though I wanted FSD, it was definitely like, okay, this is something that they needed to do.
Yeah, and as Yaman, like I have a bunch of cars that I rent out. They're all Teslas on Turo, and oftentimes guests have questions. They now have search on the UI, and it's very much needed because there's so many settings, and the settings
my
UI
gosh.
is a little complex. It's not the most intuitive way for somebody who is new to a Tesla to find where the settings are.
I agree.
Okay, so does this new information change Meta at all, your forecast?
No, because remember, I'm assuming 50% of customers will not engage. So where I struggle is sometimes you're saying, this is what's going to happen. And I think if we go segment by segment and we just discuss what your percentages are, that would be easier than if we just say the overall number, because it sounds like you think the number of people that will try 0 miles is higher than 50%. Do you think that's 60%, 70%, 80? I'm just talking about zero or trivially low, like, less than 5 miles per day on average.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to bring about Tesla up here because, like, how many people even have the software today?
You mean how many people have upgraded to a version of V12 at all?
Or I don't think it's any version of V12. It has to be V12.3 something, right?
That's V12.3.3 and V12.3.4, the first ones to go wide. But people who had V12.3.1 would technically also be driving FSD. I think the only person outside of employees was Omar, though.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
100 people or something like that.
Right, exactly. So what percent of the people are in V12.3.3 or .4 about Tesla?
Yes, about 1/3 of the fleet in the US and Canada currently doesn't have V12, and they cannot even get it until the merge happens. So they're still on V11, and I don't think V11 is eligible for the free trial. So I don't think they're doing free trial for those who are V11. So you need to wait for V12 to get it. So about close to half are already on the latest version, on the 12.3.4. I'm going to post later today once we reach the 50%, so we're getting close to that. So it's a little bit less right now.
Of that remaining population, are you including new Model 3s, Cybertrucks, they're tiny population sizes, but also are you including legacy pre-refresh S and X? Because as I understand it, 12.3.4 is the first version that they're eligible for, right?
Yeah, so basically I'm looking at the total, based on the TSLA data, I'm looking at how many cars are in the US from that data set that they have. And that's about 11,000 cars.
Right, but that's
now.
including all versions. And if we think about the vehicles that weren't even able to upgrade to 12.3.4 until like a few days ago, that's about what, maybe a quarter of the fleet?
So basically, most of the cars are now able to upgrade. There's including the legacy Model S and Model X. So now they are eligible to upgrade. So most of them, at least. In fact, they have received the version 12.3.4 among the first ones. So it went to those cars first. So they now have it, or at least are targeted for it. So not everyone has downloaded it.
But there's a big difference between the first vehicle that gets it and every vehicle is able to download it if connected to Wi-Fi. And there's the mean time to a car connecting to Wi-Fi and the mean time to somebody actually downloading it, right? Do you happen to know what the mean time to download for getting to, let's say, 80% usually is, or 50% usually is? Because whatever that lagging indicator is normally, it's reasonable to assume that while it might be a little bit lower because of enthusiasm, most people are just going to update when they happen to connect to Wi-Fi. So there's some percentage of the car fleet that will never update.
Yes, that's true. And I'm monitoring both numbers as far as who is targeted versus who actually installed it. Again, based on the TSLA data. So it's interesting. The speeds, how quickly the version is installed, depends on how they push it out. So if they require you to go and check in the car, then it may take actually a couple of 2-3 days before even significant portion install it, because they don't know that they have it until they check. The latest rollout, the latest version, appears to be pushed out to the car. So it means that it will show up on the app. Otherwise, you only can check it like once in 24 hours, and it will not automatically show up on the. So they do it differently for different versions. Like the previous rollout, the previous version, it didn't show up on the app, so you had to go and actually check it in the car. This latest one looks like they are showing it. So depending on that, the speed of the how quickly it will roll out varies dramatically.
And if you look at
one thing I want to do today is relax. Sunday nights, weekend edition. Kind of take a step back, sit in the couch, or lay down on your bed. Deep breaths, everybody. Let people finish. Let's do a relaxed mode. About Tesla, question for you. So you obviously track this number very closely. How many cars you got the update? How many installed, etc. Do you readily have the total number of cars that have 12.3.3 or 12.3.4, and then what percent of them have installed in North America?
So for the latest version 12.3.4, it's getting close to 50% of the US and Canada fleet. So half of the cars have that version. It doesn't mean that they have FSD enabled, but it means that they have that version that comes with that FSD.
Okay.
with .3.4. As I mentioned, I'm getting close to 50%, and I'm going to post later tonight once we reach 50%. So we're at last time I checked, it was like 46% or something.
I also just want to add some context. Egress bandwidth costs tends to be tiered. So there's incentives for Tesla to not ship all the updates all at once beyond just safety of rollouts. It also just makes sense to spread it out over time because you can keep your bandwidth bill lower. And these are non-trivial numbers, obviously not at the scale of like Tesla's full financials,
Right.
but
So
save a penny when you can.
we're
Right?
looking at right now, today, as of April 14th, we're looking at probably 500,000 cars, maybe 600,000 cars that may have even installed it or opted to try free trial, right?
Correct. And so then when you look at the graph and you look at the slope of the graph, you can't just chart that out because obviously more cars are going to install it.
Yeah, and I don't do that. We do first principles analysis here. We don't do technical analysis or any charts.
We've seen some people do that though. I'm just calling that out.
Yeah, not the people I follow.
Fair. 0 of them.
Mhm.
Easy out. All 0 followers have done nothing wrong that you follow.
Yep,
Reggie posted a video if you want to take a look. I think it's
I've
pretty
seen it.
cool the way the post is sticky and it doesn't seem like there's a dismiss, like you have to swipe it down is what I'm guessing, but the way to dismiss it is non-obvious. So that might actually hopefully encourage more opt-in.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say 500,000 cars have the updates installed. What are some reasons people would opt out of it? Like, let's say, Tesla comes to them and says, all right, here's a free trial, 30 days. About Tesla, or maybe Reggie, let's say you got the install. If you waited a week, does that delay the 30-day start? Or does it start as soon as you install?
No, I would assume that it's over April 28th. That was because they got me on a subscription. So my subscription ends April 28th. So I'm not for
Okay, so
sure.
try it now or you lose it. Use
Yeah.
it or lose it.
I'll check. I believe my email said that it's because it expires on April 30. So it just has a specific expiration date.
Okay. So
When you check, do you mind checking if you received the email on March 30th, or did you receive it like mid-April?
I received it. First, I received the version, and then the next day or something, I received the email.
Sorry, I guess what I was asking was when you received the email, was it 30 days out the specific expiration date, or was it less than 30 days out?
Checking.
Mine's. I got the email. Well, my wife did. She forwarded. It was March 30th. I got an email from Tesla says complimentary full self-driving supervised. Sorry, that was the first one. So that may be. Yeah, that was the one I got. Yep. So it's March 30th was the email I got. And it
With an
says trial.
expiration?
Yeah, will end on April 28th, 2024.
I mean, I think they're going to extend it, to be honest with you. The moment a couple of people say, oh, we didn't get the installer, we didn't get the update until late April, they're going to, okay, here's another 30 days.
Yeah, it'd be like the dumbest thing to be like, here's a free trial for 2 days, use it or lose it. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at my email. So I received the email on March 29th early in the morning. It said your full self-driving supervised trial starts now. You've been granted a 30-day complimentary trial, and it says the trial will end on April 30, 2024.
So it looks like they staggered them.
Yeah, so when you get the update, your trial starts.
That would make sense unless Tesla was trying to somehow align everybody's subscriptions to the same day for some kind of like credit card processing savings, but that's like $2.50 per day or something like that.
Okay, so with that in mind, in the next 2.5 months, what do you think is going to be the weighted average user that try it?
Of the ones that have the update,
No, so that's included. What do you think? How many people, weighted average, throughout the next 2.5 months through June 30th, will be trying FSD?
somewhere between 34 to 50%.
Okay, so you're looking at 1 million people,
Yeah, up to.
up to 1 million people. Okay. And you don't think Tesla's counting highway miles up to this point, right?
Correct. I don't think they've included highway miles yet. And I suspect when Phil was talking about three big updates coming, one of them is highway, one of them is reverse.
Okay. And when do you think this update is going to come?
Order of 2 weeks to 4 weeks.
Interesting. So you think we're going to get an update in the next 4 weeks that combines highway stack with FSD city stack?
Yes. If I was at the Tesla headquarters and they were working on this, instead of trying to chase down odds and ends because it seems like it's safe enough, it's reasonably well received, I would say, okay, I get that there's more city clusters for us to go after, but focus all our effort on the highway clusters to get the highway out there because that's the next big thing. And then after that, the whole team just focuses on the most popular cluster, highway or city, doesn't matter.
Did you get a chance to listen to our macro space?
I did not.
Yutzi asked me, what are the kind of like more optimistic, more pessimistic aspects versus meta and machine? Like, where do you stand? And I machine, I kind of answered a couple of things, and then meta, I'm like, I thought, and I'm like, wow, there's nothing I'm more optimistic about than he is.
Fair.
How are you gonna know that they release an update that covers the highway mile? Are they
I would
gonna say
expect the
it?
release notes to change. Yeah, because if you look at the release notes today, it explicitly says that V12 has updated the city streets driving stack. It doesn't say highway, and they've referred to highway in the past. And the word city streets didn't need to be in that sentence.
Right. Hmm.
And Tesla's not the kind of company that just laissez-faire throws a word in the release notes.
And what's your estimate today that people using like what percent, an average FSD user today, which is only a couple 100,000 people that use it frequently, what percent of their city miles and what percent of their highway miles are on FSD, you think?
So when I polled a couple of people a few weeks ago, I was just when people were talking about it, I would ask when they're saying somebody started using it, and people were posting photos of their Tesla miles versus autopilot miles. It was surprisingly coming to about 86%. Now, these are the extreme popular users. I think the lowest I saw was around 86. There's some 90s, some like Omar's, which is like basically 100. But I think the most aggressive I would be comfortable saying is 85. And that's why I said 2.5%. About 50,000 users out there will be like the extreme adopters driving it
Yeah,
86% of the
I
time.
think that's
Blended.
where really the biggest disconnect is between you and I, is that I would not even use that as a starting point because it is so extreme. Like it's not just like to the right of the mean or anything like that. It's like the very tail end.
Yeah, but I thought it was a good way to take, the chasm's pretty established, just to take its percentages and say, let me estimate the usage in each of those segments. And so that I'm not picking the 2.5%. I'm saying, okay, for the most ambitious users, what does that number look like? And for the least ambitious users, what does that number look like? Well, that was easy, 0 and 86 or 85. 85 is just rounder.
Okay. Grant, what do you think?
Sorry, I wasn't paying full attention, but just in terms of the volume of miles that people are driving on FSD.
Yeah, I mean, the starting point is when do you think we're going to get to 2 billion? And now we're using this as a case study to kind of dissect different things.
Sorry, I wasn't able to hear exactly what you said there.
When do you think FSD miles will reach 2 billions?
I don't know. I mean, is the mile, is that published? I'm never clear exactly what the data source is for the number of miles that people are estimating. Does Tesla just occasionally announce like we made it to 1 million and that's all we have to go off?
Yes.
So it's 1 million lifetime as of what, like a couple weeks ago?
I think you're saying million, 1 billion with a B.
Okay, yeah, sorry, 1 billion. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's definitely accelerating. I'm sure they're making it free to a ton of people. You know, could be like 6 months. I don't know. Could be longer. What's the current guess?
Meta has it at 2 months. I have it at 3 to 6 months. And then some people are beyond 6 months.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would guess, yeah, 6 months seems reasonable. I mean, I don't think it'll take a year, but kind of depends on some things. Depends on how many people choose to continue using it, what the retention rate looks like within that base of users that have been given the software for free. I mean, I guess they're accounting. One thing I'm not clear on, I feel like there are all these different packages available and certainly a lot of different price points that seem kind of confusing. At this point, if you're given FSD for free, you can be using it on the highway, right? So I think that's a big determinant as well. Like, is this being used on the highway by a lot of people?
My theory is that the miles that they've been reporting are for city miles only, and they're not including the highway stack in the miles. But we don't have any data for sure. The only evidence there is that in the release notes, they say FSD has replaced the city driving stack with V12. But it could be the case that they're including highway in those miles as well.
I would normally guess that they're including the best number possible. I mean, I don't think they're haircutting it for the sake of that semantic argument. That's the only, you know more than I do about the different packages in the release notes, but it also feels safe to say they're probably including the best number possible.
You know what? That's a fair argument because it's not like they're saying this is V12 mileage. They're saying it's FSD overall. So maybe Grant's right.
I mean, just the fact that it's so small, not such a small number. I hope they're not including highway miles up to this point. It's like literally 3-4 miles a user a day.
Right,
That's
but
the reality.
it comes down to like it could be 3 or 4 miles per user, or it could be that 2% of the users are using it 70 to 80% of the time, and the
They're
rest
not.
just
They're
don't use it.
not. They're not using. They're not using 78%. I mean,
So you think
I can count with like my hands how many people use it more than 80%. I think, like, yeah, it's kind of wild that you think that people are using 80% of the time.
I'm
I'm more
saying
than
a
90%.
small percentage of the population is using it an extreme amount of time.
I get that, but yeah, let's see. Political reality, go ahead.
Yeah, my connection's not great, so sorry if I'm cutting out. You know, I use it for fun
You
to
have the
show
best connection.
people.
You literally have the best audio right now.
That's funny. Yeah, I use it for fun. I had to drive to the airport today. I was in a rush. There was no way I was going to use FSD. There's no way it could do what I needed to do to get there and save the 5 minutes. So I think I think it's an interesting tool. It's certainly perfectly fine on the highway. I would even argue that it's, you know, excellent on the highway. And I would say overall, I trust it more than I do some of the other ADAS systems that are out there. In terms of it being level 4, that's a completely different paradigm, and I think that's for me the place where I part ways with folks who think that FSD is going to be some sort of savior for Tesla. Tesla needs to keep fielding new models. They need to have high
All
velocity.
right.
They need to
Okay.
improve their quality.
We're in a
You know,
focused discussion
yeah,
right now. So you're changing the topic. I'm
yeah.
going to move you down, which is okay. All right, Meta, go ahead.
Uh, I think it depends on what topic you want to talk about, but I still think it would be
Just
useful to
focus on
try
that
and talk about.
2%. Yeah, just focus
Yeah,
on
I was
that
going to
2 to
say, like, what is
5%.
that percentage? Like, what percentage of users do folks think are using it more than 50% of the time on, say, highway?
Well, that's a very different than what you said before.
Yes, I'm trying to get like to the most extreme place to see if I can consensus build and then work from there.
Okay. Majority of highway miles on FSD / autopilot, enhanced autopilot, whatever. What percent of what group exactly?
Of the, like, let's say before the free trial, because that's really the bulk of the data we have. The folks that had FSD, so that the 400,000 cars,
Well, I
what
guess
percentage of them?
anybody can use basic autopilot, right, on the highway.
Yeah, but I
Any
don't think
vehicle.
autopilot doesn't count towards the miles. We know that for sure.
No, I know. So you're talking people who have bought FSD, so 400,000 people.
Correct.
Well, the percentage is going to be high for those people because like it's kind of like A given B, you know. So,
Correct.
but for the purpose of our discussion, the people who have free trial now are the excluding B group. Like they've already opted out of buying or subscribing to it. I think that's a major
Yeah, I'm trying
distinction.
to lead the witness, and you're like skillfully avoiding answering questions.
No, I can answer it. A given B. So among the people who have bought or subscribed to it before, I think I would say majority of the miles you're looking at 50%.
Okay, so we're at 50% of highway miles of FSD purchasers. What percentage of non-FSD purchasers, whether it was EAP or not EAP, and if you want to split that up, we can split it up. What percentage of them do you think turn on autopilot on the highway? Just basic autopilot.
Well, turn on is different than majority of the miles on the highway.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, same question. Majority of miles. Majority of the miles under autopilot.
10%.
Okay, and that represents 1.5 or 1.6 million drivers, right?
Well, today it's much lower because not everyone has the update.
Sorry, I meant of the potential, but yeah, you're right. So of the people who have the update, that would represent much lower. But I don't think you're debating that the update's not going to roll out in the next week, are you?
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like there's so many pitfalls that each of them needs to be considered. So just because Tesla rolls it out in the next week or two doesn't mean people will install it. Just because they install it doesn't mean they're going to activate the free trial. Just because they activate free trial doesn't mean they're going to go on a road trip that includes a highway or their work, daily commute includes a highway. Like all of those things need to be excluded one by one.
Correct. So, but we can't talk about them all at the same time. So I'm just trying to focus on one at a time.
Yeah, so I think people who are offered the free trial will use it. Like my general rule of thumb is that they're going to use it for a few miles, and then they're going to be like, they're going to turn it off because they're going to be on their phone.
So the core crux of the issue is you think people want to be on their phone, and so they would rather drive manually while on their phone than turn on autopilot. And that number, you think, so I don't remember exactly when the autopilot monitoring went in, but I think it was already out there. So if 10% of the highway miles is with autopilot, I think this is where we maybe disagree. I believe that 10% of customers who are using it, if we go by your numbers, would prefer to use autopilot and not be on their phone than to be on their phone.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they've already bought it, if they already subscribed to it, because these are small numbers, just a couple 100,000 people.
There's not the people who already subscribed to it. What I'm saying is the people who are using autopilot, not FSD, will convert into FSD users during the free trial, at least.
Yeah, I think we identified, the, where we disagree.
Well, if you buy that argument and we take your 10% number, and then that population represents 3 times the size of the target population that had FSD, then right there you have a 30% increase.
Okay, and where does that get us?
That gets us one of the variables of 4 discussed.
Political reality. Go ahead.
No, I think you're right. I think that as long as you have to supervise and can't use your phone or can't multitask, whether that's safe or not, that's a different question. People are going to view that, and the strikes against them is pretty damning from a continual use perspective. So I think you've nailed. I think you've nailed it. Yeah, usually you and I don't agree. I think the challenge is until you can truly let go of the wheel and be L4, that the adoption rate and utilization rate is in conflict with the ability to normally drive and multitask. And until that's resolved, I don't think you get any significant greater penetration than, let's say, 2x based on having the price of FSD at this point. So I don't think much changes in terms of penetration until you solve that issue. And I just think we're an incredibly long way from solving that issue, even though there's no question the product's progressing.
Meta, what do you think? Maybe it's just gone into something that just, oh no, what happened? Where did you go? And it dropped. All right. Well, we need a bull. We need someone to argue the other side here. Unless if everybody agrees.
I'm happy to give you a bullish argument. I think as a Yaman is a feature. I think it's an interesting feature, and at the right price point or included with the product, it will tip the scale for some people to buy a Tesla versus another product. There's no question about it. But that's a far cry from, you know, changing the whole paradigm of Tesla's revenue stream. So I think it's a valuable feature, very, very much so. I think there's use cases and dimensions where having it um, trumps the products from other players. But we tend to extrapolate, if I put myself in a bull frame of mind, that into something that it isn't. And it's okay that it's valuable at some level. I just think when we set expectations too high, then the market and folks that believe in the future of Tesla get disappointed.
So are you a bull now? I thought you were a bear. We have more bears on the board than bull. What's going on here?
No, I'm a bear on the stock price, but that doesn't mean that I dislike the company or dislike the products or dislike Elon. I think there's a misconception. There's some bears that just, hate Elon, they hate Tesla, they've never driven a Tesla, they don't understand the product. I would call myself an educated bear. You can disagree with me, but that doesn't mean that you can't have two truths. It doesn't mean that you can't believe that FSD is an interesting development and a benefit to Tesla, but at the same time, it's not going to change it into a $200 billion revenue company from a $100 billion revenue company. Both things can be true. You, so I don't know, there's this sort of I'm either on one side, one extreme or the other, full scale or zero, and I don't fall in
Okay.
either of those paradigms
Let's
when it
see.
comes to the company.
Let's see what Michael has to say. Michael, what do you think about this topic? Michael, you're on mute. All right. I see Yashu in the listener mode. If he wants to come up and talk about it, he's welcome. Charity traders, charity trades. Do you have an estimate?
Can you repeat the question, because I kind of tone out whenever this moron talks?
Okay. Let's see. Who wants to come up and not insult the other speakers? I see Q in the crowd. I see Ken. Josh, I think was replying to something earlier. Adam. Yoda. Grant, how's it going?
It's going, man. Masters weekend wrapping up.
Do you play golf?
I do. I'm not particularly good.
No. What do you hit usually?
Like 100.
Yeah. That's not bad. It's not like you can't hold your own.
Yeah, I mean, it's tougher getting out with any level of regularity in the city, so I would be better if I played regularly.
Reggie, what do you hit?
I have little time for golf, but I do still have clubs. But I'm in the high 90s.
And yeah, you guys should play.
Yaman, do you play? I didn't think you was a golfer.
I was a banker. I had to play.
So what was your score?
Somewhere around there. Oh, above. Anyway, let's get back on topic. Reggie, how is it doing for you, FSD?
Yeah, good question. Thanks for asking. Yeah, so I did take a trip to you probably know Yaman, the Poteet Strawberry Festival. I did confirm a lot of things on this drive. One, it's a rural area. If no one knows, it's a country town. And I did, at least for the highway side of it, I can't confirm for the city, but FSD, well, for the highway, is not reading speed limits. I know that was a big conversation, big topic. It's not reading the speed limit signs. I've driven by a 70-mile-per-hour speed limit sign that was probably previously 60 miles per hour. And the car looked at it and read 60. It did not read 70. And it was a highway that switches in between city and highway. It's a weird highway 16, but it didn't read it. But I wish Meta was on the call, because I did have a question for him about what's the reason for FSD when you enable it without it. FSD allows to be enabled without a navigation point.
What do you mean? Can you repeat that question?
Sure. What was the strategy behind Tesla allowing FSD to be enabled without a navigation point? I have
Why
my
wouldn't
theory, but
Okay, go ahead.
I think it goes down to what I was saying about Waymo, about how they don't.
I mean, why wouldn't they allow it? Because you can enable cruise control without destination in the car, right?
But you have autopilot for that, or what would be the true reason for it to just to randomly go somewhere?
It's not randomly going somewhere. It's just going straight.
Well, it's not, because when I was in the strawberry festival, they had us park in this field, a field by the way, and I forgot to have my destination in, and I enabled it. I'm in the field, obviously trying to get you to park right in the correct. It literally got us out of there, and it followed the car out, put on his blinker to go left out of a field, and I was shocked. My wife was shocked, but it literally got us back on the road in the field. So I was pleasantly surprised. That kind of probed that question of maybe this is the reason, just to always not have the car get stuck, because they can figure out a way to get out of these situations, right? They can find its way out of any situation. Is mine.
Gotcha. How long have you did you buy it or do you subscribe to it?
No, I bought EAP, and I got the subscription, free trial, I should say. So I'm testing it out here. It's been incredible. You know, doing the highway, it is different from EAP highway as well. It, I think EAP is a lot more stable, but FSD highway is a lot smoother. There's some quite a bit differences between the two, because FSD doesn't commit to lanes when it wants to blinkler over. It kind of hovers between the two and then it moves. But overall, FSD has been. I use it every day. My wife doesn't use it at all. So that you guys, I know you guys were talking about. Well, what's the adoption rate? I'm the early adopter. I use it, but as she's the lagger or the late, those are
So
majority.
is it gonna be 99 for you?
Uh, I will not, after my subscription in. I will not subscribe for it. Not in. I bought EAP for her to get smart summon.
Okay. Wow. Why do you say you're not going to?
Because FSD at this point, that's still in somewhat beta or supervised, I would say it should be just like a gym membership, $50 a month. Reason why? I I can lose $50 a month, and regardless if I use it or not, I'm not looking for any type of enhancements. I can just use it. But when you get to that $100, $200 at one point, I'm looking for a full fledged system that works, and I don't have to look at the road while it's doing its thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
That's exactly
it's
my thing.
nagging more now than it was on. I think it's nagging more on 3.4 than it was on 3.3.
Interesting. Yeah, sure. Welcome. How are you?
Hey everyone, how's it going? I have less experience with 3.4 than I do on 3.3, but Reggie, I think to answer your original question about why it should keep going, is because, I mean, if you're in a Robotaxi environment one day, and Tesla's probably planning for this, in between destinations, you can't just have the car essentially become immobile, right? You need it to continue to do something, go straight, find a road, find a destination, even though it has nothing plugged into it. And I found myself a lot of my disengagements are like, I want to get to the backside of a store. And when I plug in the store, it just takes it to the front and it tries to pull into a spot that doesn't really exist. And it's like, I want to go to the back alley, but I can't really program it to go to the back alley unless I like pseudo program it to go to this other store, which is like, so it's like the mapping system I'm finding is probably the source of my biggest troubles. It's like I want it to go to the back of the alley, which it's mapped to get here, but I don't want to have to figure it out at the end of it. I want to, and I also would love if I could plug it in so it follows my route there, because there's certain things that I know like this way will be faster, and it might not be a recommended way to get somewhere. And I'm like, if it just goes this way and I could tell it exactly how to program it, I think, like, I don't have to hit it unprotected left here. I can go right and then pull a UE or go here, and I could tell FSD to do that. I think it'd be a lot more useful.
Yeah, sure. How long have you had FSD? Or are you just trialing it? Yeah, sure, meet. Yeah, sure. Reggie, you can't hear Yashu, right?
No, I cannot hear him. He may have, yeah, he may have some interruptions.
Okay. Maybe he got a call. Sorry, what were you gonna say? Oh, go ahead,
Can you
Yashu.
not hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
can hear
can
you
hear
now.
you now. Yeah,
Oh, you can? Okay. How much of that did you catch?
None of it.
none of it.
Oh, okay. Classic. Anyways, I'll just kind of repeat myself, but I was just going to say, I think the reason why FSD continues to go, even though it's not enabled, is because it doesn't want to get to a point where in between Robotaxi trips, eventually it just kind of is immobile and doesn't know where to go. And then on that note, I was just saying, but like a big source of disengagements for me is like not is like the mapping. It's like, I want to get
Oh
to the
no,
front
no,
of something or to the back
we heard
alley of a store or
Yashu.
a house, and it's like I can't program it even though I can see it on the map. Like I want it to get to
What
this
is going
particular
on
way.
here?
Or
Yashu,
this.
we heard that. I think we heard that part. Are you able to hear it, Yaman?
Okay.
Oh, he can't hear me. I'm gonna be back. Reggie, can you tell him I'm gonna move him down and then bring him back up?
Okay. So he's gonna move you down, Yashu, and then move you back up.
Okay.
You guys can hear each other.
I can't hear you. I don't know.
Yashu, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. How long have you had FSD? Either purchased or bought or subscribed?
When the trial came out, so what, like 2.5,
Yeah.
3 weeks maybe?
Are you going to continue to subscribe to it?
Oh yeah, I've already subscribed to it, but it's not gonna charge me until end of the month or something.
Okay. What prompted you to subscribe to it now?
Well, I was talking about it with my friends, and I was like, I'm already probably going to subscribe to it, even at the old prices. How long I would have used it for, I don't know, but at 99, I look at it more like a driver assist, even, and at that price, it's kind of like a backup driver ready to take over. And all of my interventions are really just accelerator touches. Like I know it's clear, it's hesitating because it's trying to be safer than me. I'm gonna hit the accelerator on the right turn to like make it go faster. Like almost all my interventions are that. It's not perfect, um, but it is really like a mind off when you are driving. I'm still there. I'm still present, but it's more than a driver assist, in my opinion.
So, question for you, Yashi. I don't know where you're located at, but how long are your winter months?
Yeah, not very long. We don't have much snow up here, so it's
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I mean, he said if he would have subscribed at even at 199, so Yashu is probably going to keep it for a while at 99. Yashu, when do you think we're going to get to 2 billion miles? That's kind of the question we're exploring today.
Oh, I see. I don't know. I'd probably just be throwing. It'd be a fart in the wind, but um, I don't know. It that graph at Tesla really was a little bit hard to read with like the x-axis was like super janky and it was like it wasn't evenly spread out. But I think Sawyer said within the next couple months should hit 2 billion. So, um, but on that topic, like Elon said, 6 billion miles, right, is what is needed. But that was before the AI solution, right? Like this was before end-to-end neural net. This was like what, 8 years ago. There's no way Elon had this in mind as the solution. So if anything, you would surmise from that it's not 6 billion that's actually needed. It's probably less than that.
Yoda, what do you think? Tesla Yoda? I think we're having some connection issues with Yoda. Let's see if he wants to come back up. Yeah, actually, can you elaborate on why you think it's going to be less than 6 billion miles required?
Sure. I think 6 billion was the number. I don't know how Elon even came to that number, but that was before the end-to-end neural net V12 methodology of solving full self-driving. I think that was mostly based on heuristics and, auto labeling, all this stuff. But I feel like now with end-to-end and having the system learn from itself, so to speak, 8 years ago, Elon probably set 6 billion from the data he had. And I feel like with end-to-end neural net, it's probably going to be less than that, if anything.
Yoda, can you hear me? Looks like Yoda can't come off mute, is my guess, for some reason. Maybe if he's on desktop, a poor connection, maybe. It's possible. Anyway, it's all right. Yeah, sure. I don't know, because I don't think the 6 billion estimate was based on like how many miles to learn to get to a certain level. I think it's based on how many miles do you need to reach statistical significance, you know. So, and arguably, you know, when he said it, there's autopilot miles, and we've had way more than 6 billion miles on autopilot. Tesla Yoda?
Yeah, I think it's right now we're very excited about the price of FSD subscription. But I think as this excitement of the $99 wears on, I think it's going to be very important to pay attention to the retention rate. And so after a month, what's the percentage of subscribers who are going to keep their subscription? And I think that will be dictated by how comfortable and how useful the service is ultimately. In driving 11.4.9 and then comparing that to 12.3, I think there's a chance that the majority of this new subscribers will keep their subscription. But I think that will be something we want to pay attention on. And I think there's different price points that Tesla can experiment with, but price is not going to be the true determinant of whether someone keeps their subscription or not. I think it has to go back to whether they feel comfortable, whether it's a safe ride, and then how useful it is.
I agree completely. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like 11.4.9, I had no experience with FSD prior to the trial. And my dad, so I convinced my dad to buy the trial as well. He's on the 2024.8.7 stack, so he doesn't get V12 yet in the trial. So I was like, why don't you subscribe to it and let's test out V11.4.9? And I can tell firsthand if there's like a big difference. And so yesterday we did that, or the other day we did that, and it was just like it was like I can see if I'd never had driven FSD before, version 12 that is, then I'd be like, wow, it's cool. It's making a turn here. It's it's doing the stuff that I've never seen a Tesla do before. Someone that just has autopilot. But comparing it to V12, it was just like it was a giant turd, really. I mean, like the quality of V12 is just insane. It made me, if anything, appreciate V12 so much more because the decision making, the speed, the ability to recognize nuanced like stuff on the road that is quite nuanced on V12, I just took for granted as someone that just got the trial. I was like, oh, this is really sick. And then on 11.4.9, even though I had been watching videos for years on FSD, it's like I'm looking at that and I'm going, wow, like that's a crazy, crazy jump with this new methodology. I can only imagine how much better it's going to get.
Interesting.
Yeah, for
Yoda?
sure. Yeah, for sure. I would say that 11.4.9 literally feels like a new teenage driver who just got their license. And literally, I just drove it before hitting the speaker button here. And it, the feeling you get is that you literally have to supervise. It's like, if you're on a passenger seat and you got a new young driver and you're telling them to do certain things, you are not technically comfortable in that state, right? You're watching out. You're holding your breath on certain actions. Um, and from there, 11.4.9 to 12.3, that that advancement is not linear. Now you're at the point where you are comfortable, you are sitting back. And so I think what drives people to subscribe will not need true unsupervised driving for the near future. It'll get there, but that's not the it's not required for people to become a subscriber at $99. They just have to feel comfortable that FSD has to be value adding to their experience for that trip. I don't know exactly how many more iterations, but I would say 12.3 is very, very close. And when you hit that point of comfort, you get retention. And you could imagine if Netflix was not able to retain its customers, the acquisition cost per Netflix subscriber is obviously in the hundreds of dollars. That is not a sustainable business. So the key to Tesla and FSD is to have the technology reach to the point where people retain their subscription.
Do you want to know? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer up my thoughts on the 6 billion and where Elon Musk got it from. I have a theory on it that basically it's.
Are you in the bath? Are you in a bath right now?
I may or may not be. I can neither confirm nor deny.
You're either in a bath or your drinking problem is really severe.
I do have a fully stocked cocktail bar that I like to dabble in.
Pause.
I love the I can neither confirm nor deny reference. Anyway, keep going.
Anyway, 6 billion miles. So I think my theory is that there's like actually a tweet from Elon that it needs to get to 99.9999%. In other words, there needs to be 6 nines in the march of nines to be 10x safer than humans. And I think that it's not coincidental that it's also 6 billion miles. So I think it's related concept of 6 billion miles and 6 nines. Ironically, that is a number combination that is a favorite of Elon's as well. So I think that's the goal. I think 2 billion is going to be within the next 6 months, definitely. Could be as soon as the next 3 months, but my current baseline is 5.
Do you want to know what agrees with me, Meta? I think you should just buy me my coffee now.
Which parts of the breakdown do you disagree with? Do you want to know?
Doesn't matter. He agrees with me, so we win.
Wait, so the criteria is if they agree with you, they do not need to show the math, right?
Exactly.
I had a post that outlines the math for the 5 months. Basically, it's
following the how long took to go from the first million vehicles to the second million, and how much the time compressed between those two. And
I
if
ended at the
you
top.
yeah, if you look at that, that's where I get the 5 months
How do
as
you
my base
feel?
case.
How do you feel that the free trial, um, if you agree with the fact that they need data to train V12 is different than where they were at the early stages of the graph that you're referring to, how do you feel those change the rate?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Do you agree that the slope of the graph that you're looking at for the first period can't just be translated to the current period, right? That's what you're doing. You're taking the period of time
Yeah,
over which miles was collected in the past and then trying to take it and apply it to the current time period. But there's macro factors that are quite different.
no, I'm analogizing it to the cars, the ramp up in cars, and then how much did the timeline compress between the first um, 10 unit, 1 million in the case of cars, 1 billion in the case um, of miles. And I'm compressing it by that same factor. You could see the math in the pin post.
Oh,
Thanks a
gotcha.
lot.
That's a very strange thing. Like, to me, software adoption rates and hardware manufacturing, sales, and delivery rates are apples and oranges.
Yes, I agree. It was meant to be like a conservative take, um, and it's like a conservative estimate. I think in theory, software adoption should be much easier than building cars. So I think that this is a conservative take, and it implies that the 6 billion miles can be possible within 13 months, which I think is very exciting.
Do you agree that right now some of the actions Tesla's taking suggest, and this is like reinforcing, statements I made even before they took these actions, that they need to increase the mileage, not because they're trying to increase the mileage, but because they're trying to increase the rate at which disengagements are arriving? And if you agree with that, do you think that they will fail to achieve that goal and not be able to come up with any incentives to pull this timeline forward? Or do you think that that thesis is wrong?
No, I
This is
think
wrong.
I no, I think it makes sense that they are going. I've actually brought it up in a previous spaces, and I was actually asking you a question. I think about like how are they going to use the disengagements to train the model, um, and I am 100% on the idea that they're going to do that. Um, the the how successful will they be? To me,
We can't hear you. Hold on, I'm gonna mute him. Go ahead. Do you want to know?
can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
I think he
All right.
accidentally unmuted himself.
Oh, okay. So what I was saying is that I asked that question previously of Meta because I think disengagements will drive the training, and I think they are definitely employing a lot of strategies to drive a lot of miles. The thing is that the free trial, unless they extend the free trial, the this huge spike that we saw isn't going to continue. Um,
Exactly.
it will pivot slightly as but of course they lowered the price, which is good, and that should drive it as well. I think I think yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, 5 months is conservative. 6 months definitely.
Yeah.
5 months is conservative base case. 2 or 3 months might be like probably what they might be shooting for. They definitely want to get it before the Robotaxi announcement.
Yeah. Meta, just to summarize, what Do You Want to Know said while you were gone is I agree with Yaman.
Damn, my audio literally cut out as you said, I 100% agree. And then it went mute, so I was making a joke. And then I realized when you muted me that it must be my audio.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. Meta, I want to ask you something. So right now, Tesla is obviously going balls to the wall with collecting, trying to get people to, give them more disengagement data. But do you think that's kind of, do you think there will come a point where they say, okay, we have enough disengagement data. Now we're limited by H100s again, or training compute, or we're limited by engineering resources or some other factor that is not data, and then kind of slow it down again? Or do you think they're going to keep the free trial going?
There's two scenarios. One is that the current architecture is sufficient, which is my thesis. If I am right in that, then I suspect data is the last bottleneck and it will continue to remain the last bottleneck. And there will come a time when the adoption rates are really high and they've tried everything they can. They've gone into other countries, they've done all the incentive structures, and they'll make the engineering choice to say, okay, now that the adoption rate is high enough, we no longer need to continue to do these incentives. So now we can focus on the revenue side and stop giving out free trials, maybe start raising prices. But I would guess they don't raise prices until they have the Robotaxi out. And so there's these two competing factors, right? Like for the ADAS system to make good money, it only has to be good to a point. They could decide to get to that point and then start raising prices. Or they could say, we really are just focused on the Robotaxi, so we're going to allow the ADAS system to be sold for less than they think it's worth so that they can pull forward the data.
How
I think they could
confident are
lean.
you from percentile? How confident are you that this architecture is the one that will get us all the way to Robotaxi?
The architecture, 85 to 90% confident. The process, 60 to 70% confident.
So what do you mean by process?
The offline training process itself. So there's the architecture that's shipped to the vehicle, the final product, and then there's like the school, if you will, that's in the cloud.
Gotcha. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
And the reason my certainty is low is because I just don't know enough about it, right? Like they haven't gone into crazy detail. So it's not a lack of confidence in their ability. It's just there's a lot of unknowns.
Do you
We have
want to make a bet about 8.8? I think it's gonna get delayed. What do you think?
I don't think 8.8 gets delayed. I think it'll happen on 8.8. I think you're
Well,
really
that's my bet.
underestimating the significance of 8.8 to Chinese culture.
That's fine. You want to make a bet?
Okay. I think there will be some presentation, some release, or something on 8.8.
Theodore?
Why do you think 8.8 needs to be delayed? Was there a reason?
Wait, Yoda, let him get the bet out officially first.
Well, first of all, you kind of said something like something's gonna happen on 8.8. I'm like, okay, well, that's a hell of a wide statement.
Well, define delayed, right? Because if they just decided to post that the robotaxis exist or a software update goes out, that would all count. If they said there's an app you can now download to order Teslas, that would count.
Yeah, I would kind of say, like literally what he said, Robotaxi unveiled, which is it sounds like it's going to be event, right? Kind of come to this location, a few hundred people, 3,000 people, whatever, and then there's an event. I think that will get delayed. I don't know if they're going to do a software update on that day, but that's not the point. The whole point is unveiling the Robotaxi.
I'm leaving a carve out for a app that they announce that people can start downloading. That would probably be with an event though. So you know what? I'll give that to you. I'm not gonna couch it. I'm gonna say there will be an event
A
streamed,
physical event.
a physically streamed event. The only reason is like you never know, right? Maybe they don't invite a bunch of people. Maybe they do it in China. Who knows? But there'll probably be at least employees there.
It will be a human dancing in a robot taxi costume, at least.
Yeah, Yoda, my only reason is that everything is delayed. That's the only reason. 10 button.
There will be an event on 8.8. I'll take that coffee bet with people in the audience.
Wait. No, I've already gotten it.
I'm with you then. I'm jumping on it.
Okay,
I mean, we
Yaman's
can do
gonna
it
take 2
two-way.
copies.
No, that doesn't work that way. Temp, you have to bring a teammate for me if you want to jump on the game. That's
Go
how it
find
works.
Machine. Machine will probably take Yaman's side. They seem to be on the same side lately.
That's true. Or Fun News, if he wants to come up and take the bet with me. Man, what has the world come to? I'm making bets with
Bud
the
News
bears.
agreed with me on the mileage, by the way.
You're just being nice.
He showed his math.
All I saw was two long messages and no math.
I do love the idea of a guy in a Robotaxi costume.
It'd be pretty funny if they trolled it and then they actually brought the car out. Like they just showed a guy and it was like on a bike or something, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's a Robotaxi."
Fun
Like,
News, do you think? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like those little kids with the Transformers costumes, you know.
It'll be an RC car.
Fun News, do you want to take that bet with me?
Well, what's the bet? Is that the how many miles to 2
No,
billion,
no,
or
no. That bet is
is
already
that the how many releases or
no.
something else?
What if you just listen? I will tell you what the bet is. That the 8/8 event will get delayed, and the event has to be a physical event. What do you think? Do you think it will be delayed, or do you think it will be on the 8/8?
As far as I recall, they haven't delayed in the past, so unless there's a valid reason, I assume that because it did seem like a rush announcement, so maybe like they just made it on the spot, but I I don't think that this would be any different from what they've done in the past. I think, for example, the Cybertruck delivery event, it was slated for they said November 30th. It happened on the 30th, so
But you
I
don't
was
think it'll
just
be delayed. Okay, so Meta,
No,
button,
hold on,
you have
Fud.
to find someone.
They were forced. They were forced by the Reuters article. Think about it. And I don't have to find someone. Temp has to find someone. You and I already have a bet. Or
Yeah,
you
that's
take a
true.
strike.
No, we have a bet. I'm not backing off this. I have never lost a bet. Listen, I've never lost a bet betting that Tesla will be delayed in something.
Have you ever made a
Okay.
bet that Tesla would be delayed?
Yeah, many times. And most of my wins are that. The machine is not here, so I think it's just you and me. I'm sorry. You have to come up
But
with your own bet.
you're gonna have to. You have to see if Temp can convince you. But you said something like they haven't delayed stuff. Other than the Cybertruck one, they have delayed a lot.
Yeah, everything I'm gonna do.
And you could go with the thesis that they picked that date because of the Reuters article.
They haven't delayed once they've announced a date, though, right?
Temp, you're not helping your cause.
I mean, of an event. I mean, obviously they've
Still
delayed
not
a
helping
lot
your
of.
cause. I'm like the only expert negotiator on the stage. How do I always get stuck with people betting against, negotiating against my side?
That's so funny.
Temp goes into like a car dealership and they're like, "We can sell it to you for 20." He's like, "I'll pay you 30."
I think one thing that is interesting is how far in advance it is. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I'm not sure if Tesla's announced, if you want to call it an event, this far in advance and just set a date on it. I actually disagree. I don't think it's about the Reuters. I don't think that's what pushed it. I think if anything, they decided internally and then it got leaked and then Reuters jumped the gun on the announcement that they were probably going to do it on earnings day or something. But I can't remember when they announced something this many months in advance.
I think Elon was on the toilet and he had a mood and just sent a tweet.
Because it's better than being in the bath.
8/8 is a very specific date, and he said it's the year of the dragon. 2024 adds up to 8. This is a very thoughtfully picked date, even if it was like picked. So my argument would be they're probably looking at something around that time. And Elon, given his meme philosophy on the world was like, let's pick something meaningful rather than like,
It sounds like you're trying to convince yourself here. Before you convince yourself out of it, can you just reply agree or yes or something?
I was trying to convince Fudd to come in, but I'll take the bet.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the unknown risks that you like, obviously. The COVID, Third World War. Who knows?
Yeah, that if there's a third world war or there's a new COVID and I lose the bet because of that, I will
still win.
happily take my loss.
Yeah. Just buy me coffee before the nukes start flying.
What if it's that all coffee has run out in the world and that's why they can't have the event?
Listen, the real reason I make these coffee bets is because I'm addicted to coffee and I'm just hedging my raw material costs here.
Yeah, I thought maybe you had some like inside track. You actually started all this Tesla space, not because you're a fan of Tesla, but because you knew there's gonna be a short squeeze on the coffee supply.
Exactly. Exactly right. All right. Let's see.
Hey, how much Turkish coffee is sold in the world?
I don't know, but I'll tell you this. Like, I must be one of the few Turkish people in the world that actually don't drink Turkish coffee too much. Like, I don't think I've ever made it myself. Anyway.
I think that's a very safe bet because of how many people from Turkey probably live in Turkey.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean?
You said the percentage of Turkish people. What percentage of Turkish people live in Turkey? Those people probably drink Turkish coffee, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fatmis, did you say you bet you were a Tesla bull before? Is that right?
Yes, I was. I was mainly just like enthusiast. I was just watching from the sidelines. Obviously, I did see, especially in 2020, and I think starting obviously in 2022, I was very bullish before what happened in 2023 January. That led me to question things. Obviously, yes.
Okay. And so you've never bought the stock. You just were watching from the sidelines.
In 2020, I was actually, but it obviously was not the best of action. I think obviously midway I was like, I do
And
not
then
want to.
did you have an account at that point on X?
No, I did not. I had an account. I think if I by June, but I didn't post until I think starting October because obviously I saw Q3 coming out. I was like, okay, let me put my opinion on this because it was interesting. Because obviously,
Okay.
majority of people are kind of just watch from the sidelines, don't like comment at all or do anything. But that was me for a long time. I was not like a creator or anything. I obviously I looked up to people that actually, such as Gally. I think Hyperchange. He was the one who first posted the videos. I was
Yeah.
very engaged with
We have
YouTube
we have
videos.
some breaking
Yeah.
sorry, we have some breaking news. Guru Gavin posted just 5 minutes ago an electric headline. Tesla is rumored to be in talks to lay off as many as 30,000 of its employees per electric. So let's go to the electric article real quick.
This leaked a few days ago too, by the way.
I don't think the number leaked, right?
This is from Reddit. I replied already on that tweet, and there was like a Reddit post saying someone's like, oh, if you need any referrals before the chopping blocks, let me know, and that's where their source is. So I don't know.
In the state of California,
Sorry guys, hold on 1 second. Let me just read this real quick. Tesla announced to Gigafactory Giga Texas employees that it will shorten Cybertruck production shift amid rumors that it is preparing around the layoffs. We received several reports today that Tesla employees hearing rumors of an important round of layoffs happening this week at the companies. Some of them are talking about layoffs as high as 20% of the workforce, which would mean tens of thousands of employees. The rumors come after Tesla angered some employees with delayed performance reviews and price bumps earlier this year. They also come after Tesla had quite a disastrous quarter with a year-over-year reduction in deliveries As we noted, Tesla had some good excuses regarding production going down this quarter, etc., etc. Bunch of links to previous articles. Electric state. Tesla has often implemented yearly waves of layoffs, which the automaker has attributed to hiring inefficiencies amid rapid headcount growth and getting rid of underperformance. However, if the rumors prove to be true, this one feels different. It comes after an obviously very bad quarter and comes with Tesla reducing production capacity. Also, Tesla hasn't been growing its headcount as much and as fast as it used to, making it harder to blame it on rapid growth. Whether the rumors are true or not, they're clearly currently spreading at Tesla, and they're stressful for employees. Job security is not fun. Insecurity is not fun. I wish the people at Tesla the best time now, says Fred. Well, he dropped it obviously in there. So fun news, maybe. Are you Fred? Are you Fred's burner account?
No, but obviously, there was some point that, and then we were obviously we look at probably some sources that are more bearish, and that's where we're able to find that information. Obviously, I did when I did post that, I knew that it was unsubstantiated because the count was a bit weird. It was like Elon Musk sucks or something. So that was like the source of information. I didn't find it. It didn't seem to, it was like irrelevant social media site or something, and the account who posted it
Gotcha.
did not seem credible at all.
I was just joking.
Yeah,
I'm just joking.
yeah.
Man, you're so stressed out. Why are you so stressed out? You posted the other day you didn't get much sleep. Are you stressed out because of V12?
No, I guess like I obviously, yeah, it's probably is the sleep, to be honest. Like, cause like on Thursday I was like, oh, they're gonna definitely do these price cuts, and let me just stay up. And then obviously the other days where
That's a
I was looking,
that's a common mistake when people first start making these
yeah,
coffee bets. They're like super
hmm
aggressive, and then over time they lose a couple, and then they realize they need to kind of do what Meta is doing, be very careful and hedge a little bit more, be selective. It's really good, actually. I think it's a good process. Just don't go as far as Meta to the point where you're just not making any bets.
I make the most bets in this space, despite everything Iman just said. He's just bitter
In the
because
la-
he's lost so
in
many
the
close
last,
calls.
that's not true. In the last 60 days, how many bets have you made?
I think we made 2 or 3.
I don't think so. Let's see.
We just made 1 or 2 in the last week.
Well, while I look this up, what do you think about this news?
I was gonna say, I know in California they're required to like post to this public website before they give announcements to employees. I forget what it's called, something notices. Is there something like that in Texas too? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I
I'm
would
not
say
sure, but
if the layoff was going to be in California, then it could be confirmed. If it's only in Texas, then and it would depend on if Texas has a similar requirement.
Texas is not known for having labor laws like California, obviously. So I doubt it.
Man, ever since we got FUD news in this space, everybody's starting to say obviously more.
He stole it from me.
I don't think so. I think the guy, I'm pretty sure his first word ever was obviously. Meta, I'm looking at the bets I made in the last. So we just made one today, and then we made one 5 days ago. Tesla will ramp to 1,000 per week purchase for Robotaxi sending in 2025.
I have like 2 bets with you about the mileage. One with about Tesla, one without.
Yeah, we have one on April 6th. Okay, you're right. We have made a couple bets in the last 30, 60 days.
You know, I genuinely thought you knew that answer and you were just always using it as a way of trolling me into bets. Because I know I have a lot of bets with you because you've assigned bets to me at this point. I'll have to do another trip out to Austin, and then we can settle up.
What is this one? I just pinned it at the top. Tesla will ship different FSD models to Tesla's. Oh no, I remember that one. Okay, never mind. All right.
Don't leave us hanging. What was a cliffhanger?
No, it's a long story. It was a very nuanced one that we have to kind of word it around and everything. But so sorry. So do you think they're gonna lay off 30,000 people or no?
I would not be surprised if they laid off some people uh in like a getting rid of low performers fashion. They've done that many
Man,
times, right?
this is so funny because every time I think of a question and then I look at YouTube live chat, Range the dog asks the same fucking question. It's so weird. This has happened like a handful of times now. So the
Is this
question is,
just your way of justifying that you're now stealing questions from people on YouTube Live to sound smart?
exactly. He asks, any chance Optimus is replacing some of the terminated employees?
No.
Why is this
If you had
obvious to you?
if you had an employee that was a good employee, you wouldn't fire them because things are going too well. You would just put them on another task.
Well, yeah, but you qualify it if it's a good employee.
Okay, put another way. Why do companies right now hire while laying off? I think there's just been a culture in Silicon Valley of calling firings layoffs lately.
Hmm.
Layoffs used to be you were firing the last in, first out kind of thing, right? Or there was some algorithm that they used to use. But more and more, the algorithm has become, oh, we won't tell you what it is, but it might be performance related. But if it was purely performance related, we can't call it a layoff. So they do like some fuzzy stuff. And there's like, you probably know this better than me, but there's like some financial benefits to doing a layoff versus a mass firing and not having to deal with like lawsuit risk.
I got you. All right. Yoda, what do you think about this headline?
Well, I think sometimes what can be confused is that there might be a department that is getting 20% layoffs, but then that number is getting spread 20% across the whole company. I think it's obviously not a great situation for the employees, but sort of in retail, in many different industries, an annual layoff, pruning is not uncommon. So I think, whatever the percentage ends up being, whether it's 10, 15, 20 percent, there's a little bit of that in there. I think another aspect of layoffs could be related to retail. So physical stores that Tesla has, with demand, softening with the interest rate cuts or interest rate hikes, there could be a decision around reducing the footprint. Um, and so I think, yeah, we obviously have to wait for the official news to come out. But I think something is happening, but we don't know for sure, obviously, at this point, of the percentage and the departments affected.
All right, thank you. Pod News is now so aware when everyone says obviously that he reacts to it. It's so funny. I found a good way of kind of getting in front of this thing. So from now on, everyone says obviously they have to become a patron. About that.
You missed an
So,
opportunity to say you came up with a new obvious rule.
I'm just kidding.
You just start creating a dictionary of words you can't use unless you're a Patreon member. Like
Exactly.
soon you're just gonna say the word no when asked if you want to do a coffee bet requires you to be a Patreon member.
Exactly. Every time you said Tesla. All right. Ken is in the crowd, and he's also on YouTube Live. And I saw a reply from Ken the other day. talking about how Rivian is what was the thing he said? He said, did he say Rivian is going to be Google or Android or to Tesla or something? I would love to hear more about that. But I mean, if he wants to come up. Also, he might give us some context about labor laws in Texas. That's relevant to what we were just talking about.
Yeah, actually, I have a question about that for Ken if he can come up.
Mhm. And how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Doing well. What do you think about this news? What do you think Tesla needs to disclose in Texas versus what they have to in California before laying people off? And Mid has a question for you.
To be totally honest with you, I am not up on the labor laws in Texas or California. Here in Michigan, it's you can lay off. It's an employment at will situation if you're not represented by the unions. So they do layoffs here in Detroit all the time, unless it's a union, and then that's got to be approved by the union.
I just Googled it. It's called a WARN notice, and it stands for Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification, but I'm sure it was a backronym.
Is that for California or Texas or both?
Well, it says it's for California. Yeah, California WARN Act. So I guess it's only California. I don't know how to check it. I just know it exists. I'm not gonna lie. I learned about it from TikTok.
No, that sounds right with California. They have the most regulation regarding employment. And one thing that really screws me up in California is I'm forgetting they don't have restrictive covenants. You can
Yeah,
move at any time.
no non-competes are enforceable. At-will employment is common. Like, it's very, very business friendly in that sense, or employee friendly. I think this was one of the core reasons why when Elon tried to get a bunch of engineers to leave California and go to Texas, he couldn't get them to move.
Really?
Yeah, high-tech employees, if you haven't followed the high-tech employee lawsuit of, I don't know if Ken knows the date, 2009, 10, something like that, maybe 11 or 12. There's been a couple of big precedences with Steve Jobs being on the losing side twice, where he tried to fix, based on how the settlements went, the understanding was that he was effectively wage fixing, and there was lawsuits about that, and laws changed as a result. I can go into more detail if you want, but
Yeah, I mean, if people want to talk about it, that's fine. I see Xander in the audience. This is weekend mode, chill mode, Sunday night. We have people drinking wine. We have people taking baths. So
yeah, I mean, keeping it short, it was just, I think Steve Jobs was reaching out to other companies and coming up with deals where it was like, you don't poach my people, I won't poach your people. And then effectively the argument was that the prices were being artificially suppressed I think it was when he was at Pixar and something along those lines. And then during the iPhone, Android, I think even BlackBerry boom around that time, he started doing the same thing. And I think he sends an email to the Palm guys, who he's obviously destroying their entire business. And the CEO goes, "No, I'm not going to cooperate." And he like blasted his email out. And then it was a really big lawsuit because it was the second time Steve Jobs had done it.
interesting. We also have a reply that says it's actually a federal law once the layoff extends up to a certain percentage. Is that correct, Ken?
Yeah, it is a federal law. That's correct. And it regards mass layoffs. Now I'm trying to go through and find their definition regarding mass layoff.
Interesting. Man, I get to learn so much. about so many different things through this space on Tesla. It's amazing. I would have never known that if it wasn't for this, you know.
Yeah, I learned about it oddly from like somebody sharing a TikTok with me that was saying something along the lines of, if you're in California, you should subscribe to this page. And then if your company's name pops up, you'll get like certain days of notice that a layoff might be coming.
Interesting.
It's one of those funny things where like companies are required to issue some kind of notice, so they publish these notices in like hard to find places. They don't like really broadcast it, and then they say,
Yeah.
we notified people.
Yeah. We have Bart Middleton in live chat who says, by the way, it's called a warn notice, and I don't see any on the Texas government website. Just Google Texas warn notices, and then he said, under certain circumstances, the worker adjustment and retraining notification warn act requires businesses to provide notice 60 days in advance of a plant closure or mass layoffs. And have you found anything more?
Yeah, it's that is correct. You do have to give 60 days notice. And it says that the criteria are complex for the warn notice, but some basic levels are layoffs of 50 or more workers at a single site, where 50 is at least 1/3 of the total full-time workforce at the site, or any layoffs of 500 or more workers at a single site. So there's
Yeah.
some wiggle room there.
Interesting. And thank you very much, Pod News, for becoming a Patreon. Wow. I now have bears becoming patrons.
Well, FUD News knew he would use the word obviously, and he didn't want to violate the rules.
Obviously.
I missed that obviously opportunity. My bad.
Unlimited F-bombs was not going to work, obviously.
Exactly. Man, YouTube algorithm is so freaking sensitive. It's crazy. And then they take like 1-2 days to fix it too.
It's because they're catering to advertisers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
you can see the difference, arguably, between platforms like X, where you can you can post whatever you want, and then platforms that are super advertiser friendly, and how much the creators make is quite different.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think the advertisers just need to chill a little bit, you know, just relax a little bit. Like it's okay if you drop a couple of songs here and there, which could be okay. But it is what it is. Matthew's here. He wants to talk. It's very rare someone joins the space and immediately requests to speak. So he either has urgent news or he was in anonymous mode, which is a Matthew.
Oh yeah, hey, I just found out something pretty cool on FSD 12.13.4, which I downloaded last night. So I live at the bottom of a steep in driveway, so steep driveway, and then there's like almost a probably 20% degree angle to the parking area, which is completely flat. And with Summon in all my past Teslas, and going back to 2014 Model S with AP1, you could only summon the car on flat ground, and once the vehicle got to the incline, it would stop right away, which is pretty annoying. And I just tried it on the latest version of FSD, and it summoned all the way up onto the hill, which is very surprising and very useful for me. So I thought I'd share.
I
Thank you,
noticed this.
Matthew.
I noticed it takes steep gradients really, really well. I live in a very hilly area, and that was one of the reasons why I wouldn't turn on FSD a lot. And recently, I've noticed it's adjusting its speed, as we know, dynamically. But I think if you pay attention, I'm trying to figure out when it's going up and down by 1 or 2 miles, and it was definitely smoothing out the I don't know how to describe it other than like the feeling of being ejected out of your seat when you go over a hill. That was less.
Ken, so what is it about you and Rivian? Do you have an investment in Rivian?
I may be the only person on the planet who actually made money on Rivian. I bought it at the IPO and sold out after the little pop. So I've been out of it since. So currently I have no investment in Rivian.
All right, but you believe they're going to survive?
Somebody has to survive. And my comment on that Rivian site when you were on it the other night was Rivian is to Burger King as Tesla is to McDonald's.
Right, exactly. And you believe that?
I think they are following Rivian. I'm sorry. I think Rivian is following Tesla very, very closely. And after you got ceremoniously dumped off the site, they went on and talked about Rivian's products. And like every other word out of their mouth was just praising Tesla. You know, how much superior Tesla was in this particular thing and this particular thing. And they really were talking up Tesla. So, I think they're following the Tesla's playbook as close as they can. And that's what Burger King did with McDonald's. Wherever McDonald's went, what happened? Burger King showed up. And I think that's exactly what Rivian's trying to do.
Yoda?
I'm just gonna make a small prediction here. I think FUD News is gonna see the Tesla share price go down in the Q1 reports. The layoffs sometimes that actually drives the stock up.
You might be covering your microphone, FYI.
Oh yeah. So I think with the Q1 numbers coming out towards the end of April, I think FUD News, my prediction is he's gonna flip by buying the dip.
All right. I agree. I agree with that prediction.
Is there a coffee bet out there?
I think Todd News is a smart man. I think he also wants to sleep.
But FUD News could get free coffee.
No, we don't want to incentivize him to not buy the stock. I think that's
Fair point.
that's
Fair
good
point.
prediction.
Yeah. You lose more money than the coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes people take this coffee bus very seriously, not too seriously. Yoda, what do you think about what Ken said?
Sorry, I missed what he said before.
He said Rivian is the Burger King to Tesla's McDonald's.
Oh yeah. I held Rivian. I bought some in Rivian heading into the R2 and R3 announcements, and made a little money there, but immediately I was not comfortable. It's just that spider sense of how production's going to be an issue for them. So I sold it after the event. Again, I'm not a trader per se, but I was excited for them, but I just couldn't hold that position for too long.
Thank you, Yoda. As a reminder to folks, you have to stay on mute and raise your hand when you come up to speaker board. EV1, would you please put yourself on mute? Thank you. Meta?
Just one last thing I wanted to share about my recent FSD experiences, and then I have to run. I've noticed that the alerts that fire, including like FSD might be degraded, the early collision warning sounds, and various other things, I'm pretty confident those are disconnected from FSD at this point, as we saw with like the takeover for it can't complete the maneuver and then it just completes the maneuver sometimes anyway. So I think we're entering the realm of the team is getting lazy on removing those things just because they're going to move to the highway stack and then delete it all at once.
What do you think about the curb rashes, Meta?
It's real. Like clearly, I believe people that's
Why is
happening.
it new?
Why is it new that there is curb rash happening?
Or way more frequently with V12.
Yeah, so if you think the policies are, and we've seen Rohan say something like this, so I think it's valid to assume that this is at least what the policies are, is to say, don't get into an accident as defined by the sensors, don't break accelerator jerk metrics as defined by the sensors, and make sure you get to the destination within a certain amount of time of the ETA. Then curb rash is not one of the things that you're optimizing against. So you could argue maybe you can get to your destination a few milliseconds faster by curbing your tires. And so the car might be like, hey, I'm optimizing for what you told me to optimize for.
Understood. Well, thanks for stopping by today. EV1, go ahead.
Yeah, question about the Rivian chat. Why did you get kicked off? Did you break one of your rules? Did you come in with a question with more than 10 words?
No, I did not. I actually abided by the rules, and
Oh,
they
okay.
and they just didn't like the question. They didn't want to talk about the stocks.
Okay. They had nice things to say about Tesla. I'd be interested to hear that Rivian space, and their thoughts, their perspective.
I'll be honest with you, I've never seen a more delusional crowd. No offense, but that's after that space. That's my conclusion. I'm like, wow, these guys are out there. Like they were talking about tax credits in 2030. I'm like, you have like 9 months left. Anyway, it's that simple.
Hey, quick question for those that drive FSD right now. Do you think it's more burdensome for someone that's new to the software to drive it versus not? Meaning that, say I'm driving myself day to day, now I start using FSD. Does that now require more attention or no?
It does require more attention, yes.
Sorry, does or doesn't?
It does. Like it does increase the
Yeah,
attention
exactly.
you need to pay to the road. That's my whole thing. Like the nags need to go away
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
step change in tech rate. What do you think about Rivian?
The business or the product?
The business.
I just joined. Was there something context around it or just a random
No,
question?
just generally, do you think the company will survive? Do you think the cash they have on balance sheet is going to be enough to get them through R2, etc.? In general thoughts.
Yeah, I think the product's good to start there. I think they have a viable product. I think financially they're in a very distressful situation. I think the failure rate, I don't think will happen this year. I think if they do keep earning that cash and have to raise in, I don't know, a year from now, they'll get the funds, but at an extremely dilutive rate. So I think I would not touch the company from an equity perspective. Price target, don't have anything in mind, but I would stay away is my view for sure. And if economically it stays how it is right now, or you start seeing more geopolitics kick in and people are not buying cars, I think they could potentially go bankrupt in 2 to 3 years. I know it may sound very counterintuitive, but I wouldn't be shocked, but it would not be in the next 12 months. I don't think next 16 months. I think it'd have to do one more raise, very dilutive, and then see what happens on 24 to 36 months from now.
That's very much in line with what Machine says, that they will be able to raise money and it will be very dilutive. So I guess my question to you is, what gives you confidence that they will be able to raise this time?
Yeah, so I think, assuming the state's similar to it is now, I think the market and institutions will still believe there's going to be, second, third, fourth place in this EV race. I'm not saying I agree with that, but I think there's enough capital out there that they're not worth that much money now. I think they're around, you can correct me, I think they're just shy of 10 billion or 8 billion outright market cap, or is that off?
I think you're about right. Yeah. I think
Yeah, so
nine billion.
exactly. So to own a quarter of that business or 2.5 billion, even less than that, like I'm not saying they'd raise 25%, but if they needed to, I think there's more than enough capital out there, even going to sovereign wealth funds. Like I think it's not hard to raise that money. So I think there's gonna be a buyer out there at a dilutive rate. The view will be that the roadmap makes sense. The presentation looks good enough. The biggest question being, what's the guidance around the gross margin, right? If they have a true story they can tell and it's compelling enough that they can forecast out that in 24 months or 16 months, we will be gross margin positive, and then here's a roadmap. I can see people throwing money at it. Would I? No, but I think that's a story they tell.
Why do you think they announced the R3?
Well, for the exact reason I just said now, for roadmap and for the vision and for the long-term present value of that cash flow being a large number so that they can raise capital to justify the business valuation today.
And how long do you think they have after the event to raise capital?
When's the event? I don't follow the company that closely. When's the event?
The R2 event was, I think it was a month ago.
A month ago? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're saying how long after, like from now to raise capital is the question?
From the event, usually.
So I'm not understanding the question. You're saying how long from the past event do they have to raise capital? So call it from today, or are you saying from the next event they have?
No, from the March 13 event, the R2 event in Austin. Usually companies try to raise capital right after, right?
Depends, but yeah, generally, yes, I agree. I mean, they're talking for sure now. I mean, to be clear, I'm sure that the CFO, whoever in charge of that business, we all know this ourselves with a 10-minute look at the balance sheet income statement. So timeline-wise, usually the process takes 3 to 6 months to get a final bid. That's a pretty quick process. But for them, I think they want to close before end of year. That'd be my view. So I'd say 6 months from now. But I don't know what the actual book runs look like. I don't know what the actual posture has been to whoever they're talking to. So I don't know if that's actually happening. If it's not, I'd say they want to raise for sure in a relative position of strength. They don't want to be raising when it's super clear that they're going to burn out their money in 6 months from now or 3 months from now. So I'd say no longer than 6 months from now, they should be closing something.
Okay. And I think that's their gross margin target as well. Positive gross margin by the end of the year. But when he said that was about 3 months ago when RJ said that. They gave that guidance that they're still on track to get to positive gross margin. And since then, they've taken pricing actions, obviously. And the interest rates have proven to be higher for longer. And Tesla has ramped Cybertruck production. A bunch of things have happened since then. So we'll see if they hold on to that forecast in the next round of earnings. Before I go back to you, it's that simple. There's a question in YouTube live chat that says, have you guys talked about the rumored layoffs? We talked about the rumored layoffs, and generally people thought that there would be a round of firings, layoffs, but nothing too abnormal and not to the extent that's being rumored, like 30,000 figure that was thrown out there with the electric headline. And if you want to hear that section, you can either listen to the recording later, or you can go to YouTube Live today, right now, and scroll back and watch that section. Okay, it's that simple. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure my posture was clear that I'm not saying I think they'll actually achieve that gross margin number. I think time, by all metrics, actually hurts them right now. Even though usually time obviously does hurt you. In this case, I think it's exaggerated. So to be clear, I don't even think they'll hit gross margin positive by end of year is my stance. Again, not knowing the unit economics that well, but just from a macro level. So just want to make that clear that I think time will hurt them more than anything right now.
So let me ask you this, and I don't want to stay on reading too much unless people want to keep talking about it. But given what we know today, what do you think is the probability that this company goes bankrupt by the end of 2025?
For 20%, maybe, give or take 30%. My assumption being that if they're going to be raised, it's a conditional probability, right? It's the first you expect them to raise money. My answer there is above 50%. So let's say yes. And then if they're going to raise money in the next 6 months, I doubt they're only raising an amount that's sufficient to carry them for 1 year. So I would say it's a pretty low chance, but there's a chance they just can't raise really anything, and then that would result in being bankrupt before 25.
Okay, so we'll go back to that at some point in the future. And I asked that question in that space, and they all said 5% or lower. So
I'm sorry, in which space?
There was a Rivian space I joined.
Got it.
A lot of drama. Anyway, all right. We talked about the layoffs. Do you have any thoughts on layoffs? Tesla's rumored layoffs?
I saw a tweet from someone on it. Nothing material. I'd say parts expected, parts probably. Yeah, nothing that add value here, I'd say.
Yeah. Have you done any back of the envelope calculation about EPS? We have in about 9 days, we have the earnings day. Anything you want to talk about on that kind of sticks out to you?
No, nothing that I've done myself. But I think what I actually care about a lot, it's been impressive to me, is their CapEx spend. I want to see how their CapEx again trends for any guidance or any change for free cash flow. People I know, especially on Twitter, seem to love EPS. I could not care less, but I really care about the free cash flow, right? So if they can still maintain this pretty good CapEx efficiency, scaling more factories, and somehow being free cash flow positive, I think it'd be a great sign. So I just want to see if they increase their guidance. I think they're up to 12 billion at the upside. They're 7 to 9 billion, and they reiterated to I think max of 12 or something is what I underwrote. So that's all I could probably care about for the next earnings report.
Okay, so you want to see positive free cash flow in the next earnings report. I think the chances of that
They won't happen. No, I don't want to see it. I'm more so understanding and saying, well, if you sort of normalize this, right now you have a CapEx that you're incurring that's not revenue generating. So just understanding the composition of that CapEx and then stripping it out to see if you were to remove X amount of billions from that, what's the true free cash flow if you're assuming no growth? Because that's what you view as your sort of maintenance CapEx, right? Whereas the past 3-4 years, Tesla's a bunch of additional CapEx to grow the business, which people sometimes don't segment. And that's not the right approach here. The right approach is that strip out the future growth CapEx, look at the core actual CapEx, and then see what the free cash flow is.
Okay. Do you have a rough estimate of what Tesla's maintenance CapEx is today before we see that report?
I don't on me. If I open my computer, which I'm not going to do, I could probably get something
That's
up.
okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I mean, per factory, do you have a number? It's per factory, I think. What did I underwrite? Yeah, I don't even want to say the number.
That's fine. Let's see. I would guess maybe I think it's very low. I think it's lower than
it is. No, it's significant. It's very low. That's why I'm saying that to me it's not. I'm sure obviously people know this, it's not rocket science, but I think that's the impressive part of the business is that they're very lean and efficient. And a lot of this capex, people talk about free cash flow as if they're like a Meta or some Microsoft because they're so large a market cap, when you can't compare the businesses at all, right? So that's why I'm so focused on it. And I do remember it being notably low, like shockingly low for a capital intensive business, and that's what I care about most long term.
Yeah. But on the other hand, we also don't have a CEO right now that's being paid. So you have to add that back to trying to normalize the business, right?
Sorry, what was that? You said that you don't have a CEO, you said?
A paid CEO.
Oh.
But
you
have to add back the expense there, I think.
Yeah, there's if you're talking SG&A for these sort of operating expenses, there's two expenses I'd say is concerning. CEO, a little bit concerning, not that much. Say he's getting paid $1 billion per year, call it, or sorry, $500 million per year, which is insane, right?
You think Elon will be okay with getting paid $1 billion a year?
No, but I think you do it through an incentive system that would make us all happy. So I'm not really concerned.
That's still expense. That is still expense.
For sure it is, but I'm saying incurring that expense will be contingent on performance, in which case the pie gets much bigger. So I'm not too concerned of having a fixed $1 billion expense, I guess is my view, for no upside. What I'm actually a bit interested in is understanding how the marketing expenses scale as a business. We've been very fortunate to not have to incur any expense on a per car sold basis for direct marketing costs, and it is interesting idea to understand when you're at 6 million, 7 million, 8 million cars in a few years, what will you start to have to incur to start selling the 6.1 millionth car? That's probably, I think, the next 4-ish years, something that's worth understanding. But otherwise, I think I'm not too concerned on their OpEx.
Do you want to know?
Want to know the number? I will pay you a lot of money if you can guarantee me a number. That'd be great.
Hold on. No, that's literally the alias of the guy that's about to speak.
Yeah, sorry. If it's
easier,
what do you want
to call you?
If it's easier, you could call me Michael.
Can I call you Tub? You
Only
know,
when I'm in it.
80% of the room didn't get that joke. Anyway, you cover much.
Sorry, were we talking about Elon's compensation package?
Yeah, so right now, obviously, Tesla's income statement doesn't have an allocation for Elon's comp, which is one of the biggest expenses of the company. So, it's that simple as talking about normalizing earnings or the free cash flow by taking out the growth capex and just leaving in the maintenance capex, which is something I've discussed before. But at the same time, on the other hand, you have to add back some compensation expense for the CEO if you're trying to normalize income statement.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry, I thought you guys were. I had to hop off and hop back on. I thought you were coming at the compensation discussion from another lens. So I'll hold my comments on it.
That's okay. We can switch topics. We have the good group for that conversation as well. Ken has thoughts on that. I'm sure it's that simple has thoughts on that. What are your thoughts on Elon's comp?
My thoughts is that I think the Delaware decision was absolutely ridiculous, and it boggles my mind. And then the fact that they threw out the letters that those shareholders wrote because they couldn't verify whether those shareholders are actually shareholders was also equally ridiculous. Because why would you write a letter if you don't care, if you don't have a stake? But I have an idea because the say questions will be opening up later this week, sometime late this week, and I had an idea. Maybe we should be pushing like a statement because through the say system you have a verified share count because you have to verify with your broker. So I had this idea. Maybe we could push a statement um, and vote up a statement that says we disagree with Delaware. We want Elon compensated based on operational and market cap milestones, and et cetera, et cetera. And that kills two birds with one stone. It gives Tesla some ammo for their appeal, and also signals that we are supportive of the additional compensation packages to get him to that 25%. Because I am a little bit concerned about, he's not comfortable developing AI and robotics comment. So I'll just stop there.
Okay, Ken.
I think when we talk about this subject, we need to refer to it as Elon's package, and you need to be a Patreon.
Yeah, I like that. It's that simple. What do you think about that?
About the ruling or just going forward his package?
Going forward at this point, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if he needs that 25%, I saw someone tweet about you can't have different share classes. I didn't research it myself. I don't see why you can't, but get him where he needs to be. Do it in a smart way that's based off of future performance and ensure the precedent of Delaware can't impede that future outcome. I know they moved other companies and corporation areas, but I know Delaware is still for Tesla, I think, or unless they move to Texas, sorry. Then just make sure the future outcome can be guaranteed and give him some options, whatever he needs to get there.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Please request to speak on the current topic or the topics before. Cam, do you have any thoughts on this?
Just one moving forward regarding Elon's request for 25% voting. And I know I was an advocate for the two share classes in Elon, giving Elon the 25% and share class B out of the gate. And I was thinking about it over the last couple of weeks. And if we did that, if we created two share classes and gave Elon what he wanted, 25% voting out of share class B, wouldn't that open the door for him to sell his regular shares, therefore diluting the regular share count and hurting shareholders?
Elon's selling shares although has near-term impact on the stock price, it doesn't change the long-term performance of the company. He obviously owns the shares. It's his personal money. He can do whatever he wants with it, and um, the dilutive effect is already there. Like it's there when it's earned, vested, and I would argue when it's offered. But after it's earned, the diluted effect is already there. Like a lot of these institutional investors will look at the diluted EPS, not the basic EPS. But maybe it's that simple training there too.
Yeah,
You're exactly right. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's true that there should not be a long-term effect, but I think there was some longer-term technical damage from the late 2022 sales. I actually made a huge bet in January of 23 and went in with options and made like six figures because it was so depressed and I knew it was going to bounce back. But it should be noted that it didn't recover and still hasn't to anywhere near where it was. I think there is some element of long-term technical damage that those open market sales did.
When you say technical damage, you're talking about technical analysis?
I'm talking about psychology and like anchoring biases and how when people look at a certain period, like anchoring biases towards a certain stock prices. And so I definitely feel that there was some long-term technical damage because you could see it versus macro performance.
And just going to the earlier remark on the impacting dilution, as Iman said, there's zero impact on dilution from him getting other voting classes. Both shares have already been issued, or potentially the right to be issued. And then regarding any change in the EPS, again, as Iman said, all institutions or any investor really looks at diluted earnings, like earnings per diluted share, because you have to assume like stock-based compensation is a cost to the business, and you're assuming even past that future options are a cost to the business. So people will always look at the earnings per diluted share because that's how much money you'll actually have the right to in the future. So just to make that black and white.
Yeah. I think that you might be the most underrated account across the group right now.
Thanks, I guess.
Yeah. And so I hope you're okay with more attention because you're definitely need more attention. There's no way your account's going to stay this small.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really tweet, so I think no one's gonna care too much for me until I make them actually want to look at my page, right? So I should be pretty small.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's why, because you don't tweet, but you're like the V12 of. Anyway, all right.
Since no one's speaking, Iman, for you, since you talk probably the most anecdotes on full self-driving, overall, any updates from some of the domain experts on their timelines for when they'd expect it to be, Robotaxi ready? Do they believe Elon's 8.8 was, again, reactionary to maybe some headwinds on the actual automotive business, or any material updates? And I think Wes and also I think Meta was two of the guys who know the space pretty well.
Yeah, no one has updated their forecast. Lots of data, lots of anecdotes. We look at the Tesla FSD tracker quite a bit too, but nobody has changed their timeline. I think a lot of excitement. I mean, for good reason. But I look at maybe like a handful of people who have timelines, and not a single one has updated their timeline.
And in terms of the trajectory and the view on the actual updated software going more end to end, has there been remarks around people believing, it's been pretty fast iteration, it looks like. Do they think this is the one if they had to bet to solve it, or do they think, hey, it's way too early?
That's funny. Funny you say that, because that's literally what I asked Meta about an hour ago. And if you guys want to listen to that conversation, you can go back on YouTube Live or listen to the recording of this space later on. And he said that he is 80-90% confident that this is the architecture that's going to work. So he's at 90% confident this is the architecture that will work, and then 80% confident that the process will work. And given what I know about him, that's a no. That's like he pretty much said no, because he's very optimistic usually.
Nice. And then have you guys had the conversation around, again, very preliminary, but since he believes the actual structure now is potentially going to be there, have this also translated to the robotics arm? It sounds like this will be a massive lift as well for the robotics portion of this as well. Like it's the same stack pretty much, right? So has that been discussed at all, or is it not really been?
So not in recent days or weeks, but a couple of months ago we had a discussion about how, like, what's the timeline to 1,000 Optimus. And I'm very optimistic. The machine is very optimistic on that front, but Omar believes that we are in the early days of Optimus development, that there are a lot of unknown unknowns, just like there were with FSD back in 2016, 2017, when people were really excited about it. And so there's definitely some disagreements when it comes to Optimus timeline.
And those unknowns that machine was speaking to, that's just more so I assume still on the software side. Sorry, okay. That was just on the software side, or more the integration with software and hardware?
So let me try to remember. I don't think we kind of identified one or the other, but the example that he gave was, you're going to ask it to kind of make breakfast for you, and on the way, it's going to like knock your kid over, and you still because my argument and machine's argument is that with cars, when you develop an FSD for cars, the margin of error is very small, because if you make an error, people die. And then he was kind of in response to that was saying, like, it's still, even though it's in a household, it's still very risky. Like, it has to be all near perfect for it to get into households. So it's going to take some time, just like FSD did Omar with thing. And then machine's view is that FSD will still take years to get to Robotaxi level, and Optimus will generate first billion in profits before Robotaxis.
And machine's background, he's is he in
robotics? Yeah.
Oh, he's in robotics. Got it.
I mean, he has some experience training neural networks, but I think his PhD is in robotics. So, but when he comes, we can ask him more about it. But he's more on the hardware side of robotics than software, with some experience. But that's not like, neither of it is really his strength. His strength is he's very good looking at data, being guided by data in an unbiased way. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him be biased, to be honest with you. And he probably has the best track record on Pocket. You're on mute.
Yeah, no, nothing, I guess, to respond much to it. My view is just that you always need to take like what someone's background is. I've learned the hard way that people may sound super smart, but if they don't know the actual industry too well, it's sometimes for technology.
So I agree with you. I agree with you. If somebody, for new speakers. So for new speakers, when they come up, I ask them, like, what's your background? What's your professional career like, etc. But if somebody has been around for 2 years, then I kind of know where they stand on optimism, pessimism scale. what their weaknesses are, what their negotiation, communication, debate styles are. So like I think at that point, like just like when you've been at a company for a couple of years, the resume matters less. I think it's the same thing here. All right. Any other questions? Actually, I want to ask you, do you want to know, Michael? Michael, so my view is that until nags are removed, we're not going to see a step change in the use of FSD. And by that, I mean, even hands-free with eye tracking is not enough. People need to be able to pay attention to other things like texting or reading emails or watching a movie or chatting with the people in the car, as opposed to having to have their eyes on the road at all times. What do you think about that?
I think that's a reasonable take. I I do think that there's going to be a taper off of the how many miles we're driving on, unless Tesla extends the free trial, which I find unlikely after the price cut. But I will say a lot of my friends have said they're willing to do it. They're willing to do it for $99 a month. Who were previously skeptics. So I think that it's going to be much more people using it, like not like just two times as much. Like it's going to be more. So I think it's.
Okay.
But
let me ask you this. Now,
yes.
I don't mean this in a mean way, although it's going to sound like it. Are those friends in the room with us right now? No, yeah, I'm like, but what I mean by that is, are they kind of people on X or are these like personal friends?
No, this is a personal. There was two friends, and they're not on X. They're not. They're like Tesla enthusiasts, but not investors. And they're not like they like the products kind of thing. You know what I mean? They're not like all in on the company kind of thing.
Gotcha. So they have tried it and they believe it's good enough to continue after the free trial.
Yeah, for $99 a month. But they weren't going to do it for $199.
Gotcha.
Just, anecdotally, a friend of mine in tech went from a Porsche to a Model Y for his family. A car guy got the Model Y maybe 7, 8 months ago. Had some quality issues, brought it back, wind noise. There was some spray in the trunk, paint spray that was not fully covering some panel gaps. Had nothing great to say about Tesla. He got the FSD trial and he said, "This is effing amazing, blown away." I think there's going to be a lot of people like him. He's now converted, loves the vehicle.
Yeah, I think they like a lot of the people like the highway driving, which is funny because that's on the 11 stack, right? So, but like the highway, like switching lanes and all of that, and basically like it's almost level 3 on the highway. It's just that Tesla doesn't want to assume responsibility at this point. But even so, folks are willing to pay $99 for it.
All right. I think this is actually a good topic for people to kind of come up and talk about anecdotal evidence because we have very little data. So if you have kind of heard from a friend who has tried FSC trial, and made comments about V12 or the subscription price or anything else along those lines, please request to speak and share it with the rest of the group. We can definitely use some anecdotal evidence on this topic. And also, if anybody believes Tesla will get to 2 billion miles, FSD miles, by in Q2, so by the end of June 30th, please request to speak and kind of share your thoughts on it. That would really help Meta out. I think he, after he figured out nobody agrees with him, he kind of left the space and started crying. So if you want to make it feel better, no, I'm kidding. All right. Any other questions, comments? So Fadnus, have you done any detailed analysis for the earnings that are coming out in 9 days?
No, I haven't.
Any expectations about commentary from management or miss or beat, anything of that sort?
I think when they announced in Q4, they said, well, we expect notably lower growth. So obviously, some people are expecting 2.3 million, and then other people are saying, well, 2 million. And based off of Q1, it does not seem like they can say, well, we're going to have notably lower growth. I don't think there's any growth. I don't know if they knew that. They probably didn't expect that, obviously. Many other companies cut their guidance. So I think that rationally, I think that they would probably, if they were asked a question on what are your expectations for volume growth, they would say, well, we're not really going to talk about that. So I don't think they would talk about that. I think they're probably just going to say, well, we're more focused on weathering the economy, and we feel that we're going to prioritize FSD. Our software business is growing really rapidly. So they're definitely not going to want to talk about the car business for sure. I don't think they want to talk about volumes. I think they might try to talk about, well, we decided to focus more on our advertising efforts so that we can drive volumes in the future.
Yeah,
And this is where I
I
think
agree.
they're going to guide for.
I agree with you. Josh? Josh, you may unmute yourself. All right, it's that simple. Do you have any specific predictions you would like to make for 9 days, in 9 days earnings call? Maybe, I don't think you and I ever had a coffee bet, right? Have you ever had a coffee bet?
We did once a while back on Cybertruck deliveries. You said a pretty aggressive number. I don't remember what it was, but that was something, in my view, still aggressive, but to you, conservative case, which I think we're probably well past that.
Yeah.
I just pinged you a note, though. I saw your DM to me on the FSD miles when it'll hit 2 billion. I sent you a back of the envelope math there if you care to take a look.
Oh, that's great. Okay, interesting. Let's see. Do you want any pet shares here?
I care less. I mean, let me preface this. The numbers are very, very directional. Like the cumulative deliveries and the take rates are just very high level. The premise is that I expect an uptick next month and then a pretty big drop off actually in probably T+2 months, meaning once someone tries it, what happens after that. I think the churn rate will be pretty high. And then maybe slightly increases thereafter as people just, gets relatively better. The only caveat is if we do see step changes and the iteration becomes super quick, I think the down, it goes down in month 2, it starts kicking up super quickly is my sort of high level analysis.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. So you have a nice spreadsheet here. You're using Times New Roman, it seems.
Yeah, Aptos Narrow is usually nice too, but I hate calibrating.
I think that that means you're probably from the you probably started working before the Great Recession.
I did not, but
no.
No.
Okay. All right, because I think these days people use Arial.
Exactly, they love it, and it's like I like it very cutthroat and sharp. I don't like the rounded. Anyways.
Yeah. All right. All right. So we have US cars with FSD 442,000, and then you have that going. Interesting. Yeah, we can pin this up here and see what people think about it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the two drivers, right? Most important thing. So what's someone's opinion on the US take rate? I'm assuming Europe and China, which I know China looks like and it actually come online, but let's just be super simple. Not even account for, the cohorts, right? Of that 30% of the take rate, you're going to have the top quartile that uses it more. And it is very simple. What's the percentage of drivers that are going to use it and how much will they drive? My back of the envelope math says right now, the average driver is like 150 miles per month. So what is that? Three point something miles per day, very low.
Exactly.
So it's actually really shitty, just to be blunt.
Exactly.
And those are earlier adopters. So my view is that if you're not going to take the average consumer, the average person to Tesla, they may try this out. Sure, let's assume 2x in the actual take rate next month. I do not believe that over, 2/3, 1/3 will probably keep it. I think majority of those people drop off and they're just like, this is fun, but this takes more cognitive ability to drive on FSD. I don't want to do it. I don't care about Tesla that much. So I think you'll sort of see a big retraction, but I wouldn't be surprised if on the earnings call, Elon speaks to the initial uptick and people get super excited because they think, I can forecast out 15 to 30% growth, and then T plus 2 months is now going to be 45% growth, and just how some people tend to get. But yeah, that's the premise of the really, really high level numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, this is very much in line with what I'm assuming as well. So you have it at T plus 7.
Yeah, exactly. 6-7 months, I think, is assuming no massive change in the actual quality of it. The nag is still on. I think you're not going to see that big of adoption.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe the only thing I would adjust here is so right now, as I understand it, Tesla is not counting highway miles because that's supposed to be on the older stack. So I'm not sure. I don't know that for a fact. So the 3-mile figure you mentioned is the kind of one kind of sticking out as a sore thumb, obviously. So if they start counting highway miles with the first route, then it kind of goes up quite. That's why I have it at Q2 instead of Q3. I mean, Q3 instead of Q4.
Yeah, that'd be drastic too. Because my assumption going back to the the focus required by a consumer, the focus on highways is also, like, we know this is much less. So I think that would be dramatically on the miles per consumer per month would go up drastically as well, right? So I'm completely agree on that as well.
Okay. On news.
Just to clarify, did you mean that they're going to talk about the take rates in the earnings report? Because I don't think that they would know who would resubscribe until the month is over. I think that would probably happen closer to, let's say, next month.
Yeah,
they might say something like
question.
They might say something like we're adding this many miles or something right now.
Yeah, I think the user base, right? If you're management, and we'll see, I don't know if the earnings are going to come out. I haven't done my own analysis, but say it's going to be a surprise to the downside or already as it's negative, and next 2 quarters delivery number, the guidance is not going to be great. So they're going to want to put attention, as we all know, if you've been in this industry before, they're going to want to try to focus on something else. So I think it's very easy to say we had a 50% increase or 25% increase in subscriptions to full self-driving in the past 15, 30 days. They'll start talking about how amazing it is and go into detail on that. So retention we won't have the churn rate, but my view is that on that call they can probably speak to a pretty impressive take rate number, the increase of it. But I think people may overestimate that and not understand a large portion of those new users are going to churn at a very high rate because of the nag and because of the actual mental capacity required. That's what I was saying.
In regards to you said they would obviously say there's an increase in the take rates, but I don't know if I'm wrong about this, but I believe that they gave a 3-month trial, so wouldn't the take rate technically be like 100? So I'm not sure, because some bears are saying, well, they're just going to use that to manipulate, and then some bulls obviously are saying they could use that to point to positives. But I'm not sure, like, you can determine the take rates until a month. But maybe, like, I'm missing something completely that's really simple.
No, you're right. You're right.
But
they're not gonna quote take rate. That would make no sense.
But there's paid, right? Like you'll know who's paying and who's not. I'm not sure, when does the free trial end? I thought, when was that going to be?
End of April.
Oh,
It's different from person to person depending on when they got the update, but it's going to be about end of April.
My friend who had told about this, it's going to cost him. Interesting. I'll ask him. He said he had to pay for it. He assumed he has to pay $99. He said he saw something. He didn't go to download it yet. I thought he'd actually have to pay like today to get it, but it sounds like you're saying it's not the case. Let me tell him. Actually, it's interesting.
Okay. Tim?
I was just going to ask. So I think they're going to highlight miles driven, if anything, right, in the earnings call. And I wanted to ask. It's that simple. Um, have you thought much about more than 7 months out as far as FSD and if they improve the nag, will that curve steepen up a lot? And at what point would you think? I would think personally by 7 months from now, the nags will probably be far less, and the manual overhead of the thinking required to drive on FSD will be much lower, and therefore the miles driven would start to steepen.
Yeah, I completely agree. In terms of when that happens, I don't want to sit here and say a timeline because I'm not confident in it. It just really becomes, if you know the software, you drive it every day. When do you feel that your attention span's now lower on driving with FSD versus not? And at that point in time, you'll see probably a pretty big uptick would be my assumption.
See, I disagree with you guys on that. I think it's going to wait until eyes off for a big uptake.
I guess define big. I agree still with that. Someone has to go in and not pay attention at all. I think if they still have to look in a certain way, or they can't be turning weird or on their phone or things like that, I think that will still be not a big uptick. But if there's ways to be a midpoint where you can at least, change a song on your phone or do something and not have to worry about some noise or some nag, then if that exists, that midpoint, that should be a big uptick.
I mean, for me, it's really about, can you look at your phone, read text, and reply? If you can do that, then I think it's good enough for a big uptick in take rates. If you can't do that, just to change music, I don't think it's going to be enough. You can't do that right now with the scroll wheel or like.
Yeah, I think we agree. I think we're on the same page. To me, it's the user experience of being able to actually drive like normal, but have all the benefits, but not the actual.
I don't know. I don't know. You agree with both me and Ken. So now I'm trying to think you just agree with person.
No, because you're saying that you have to be fully hands-off driving from 0 to 1. My view is that doesn't have to be there. My view is that you have to go get in your car, drive on full self-driving, be able to text, but I don't know how they're going to do it. There's some intervention still required or some sort of awareness required where you touch the wheel every X amount of time or something, or look at the camera every X amount of time, not touch the wheel. So I just don't think it's black and white.
Gotcha. Sam, what do you think?
What's your coffee budget for the month, Yaman? Is it like 1, 2, or 3 FSD subscriptions?
It depends on my patrons.
So
Well,
I
what do you want to
generally
bet?
so I generally get 1 cappuccino and 1 cortado a day, which is $10 a day.
Well,
So it's
hold on. So we
three
have
FSD subscriptions per month,
no,
right? My
no.
point being that at $99 per month, I think it's a much easier decision to move into, even with nags. And as those nags get less and less, I think it's going to steepen pretty quickly over the
Okay.
next 6, 7
Well,
months.
let me tell you this. AJ just upgraded their membership from Spaces to Tesla here. So that means I can bet one more coffee today. Thank you, AJ, for allowing me to continue my coffee bet addiction. So, Sam, what bets are you offering to me?
I don't know if we have the metrics to bet here, right? If we knew miles
We can make it
on
work.
FSD,
I can make a market on anything. Just tell me what you want to bet on, and I'll make a market for you.
miles driven on FSD would seem to be the logical metric to bet on, but I don't know if there's a good source for that.
Well, Tesla announces every now and then. I'm guessing they're going to announce every billion mile, and then every earnings will get an update to the chart, so we can extrapolate between two figures, etc. What milestone do you want to bet on?
I'll take we'll call the betting line the T plus 7 months.
So where
And
do
you
you
can
think it's
take,
going to be? Okay.
I'll take the under on that bet because I know you want the over.
Well, I said Q2. Q plus 7 it's that simple prediction. So
All right,
that would be
so we
from
agree.
7 months is sorry. I said Q3. Do you think it's gonna be Q2?
I'll take today, right? Less than 7 months from today. 2 billion miles on FSD.
No. I already said Q3, so we're on the same time. If
Yep.
you want to bet, it's that simple on that. But the thing is, that's his basis. So if he's saying T plus 7, it can be earlier or later. When do you think it's going to happen? Just give me a date. Like, when do you think it's going to get to 2 billion miles?
Yeah, I think he's pretty close. I think 6 or 7 months is a good guess.
Okay. Well, you're not going to be able to. Do you have a coffee bet at all? Ever?
Me and you? Yeah, I paid out on 2 coffee bets. That one of them was I paid out on one where I actually won the bet. It was gross vehicle weight under 7,000 pounds for the Cybertruck, and the other one was will
So why'd you
Ford
pay out then if you won?
because I thought I was going to lose. And the other
What
one,
is the gross vehicle weight in that?
it's under 7, and that was my
So
bet.
that I did win.
No,
All
you
right,
went.
we're gonna check
You
the
went
tape. Okay,
over.
we'll check
Yeah,
the
we're
tape on that.
you
What's the
check
other
the
one?
tape. The other one was will Ford ever make 1 million F-150s electric?
Oh yeah. And yes, I won that one clear and square.
I was just being a
You
good
know,
sport
you
and
know who,
wanting to
you know
support the
who.
channel. I was just wanting
Thank
to
you.
support the channel a little bit
I
before
see.
you got
I
the
see.
Patreon going and all that good stuff.
Thank you. You know who I want to bet against on that topic is Corey Stephen. Corey Stephen bets me that Ford would deliver or reach their target, which was like 150,000 or something by then 2023. And I said, there's no way that's going to happen, Corey. And we made this bet in person. Okay. And then he just disappeared. So I need to chase him down. I need to go to Lucid headquarters and chase him down. Hey, Corey, you owe me. I think we bet the beer after it. No. Anyway.
I've got some.
The
Go
one
ahead.
that would just be if this goes, into obviously Canada's small, but Europe, China, if any of those get the green light, like if I was going to bet on this with actual money, I'd say it's the under, for sure on the 7 months. But this is just US, right? So the moment you turn on one of those other countries, and then also be if the tech does really improve at a very fast rate, and that nag doesn't even close to come off, you probably see again surprise to the upside. So it's again going to be under.
Michael?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that they disclose the FSD miles driven every quarterly shareholder letter. They have like a graph, and I mean, you can count pixels, but they disclose it every quarter. So you guys should be easily able to do it. And then I think going forward, they'll do every billion as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know what's really funny right now for me? I want to share with the crowd is that do you want to know's name is Michael? And then it's that simple is reminding me of a friend I have named Michael. And so in my mind, there's like 2 Michaels going on. And
then also last quarterly call, there was a lot of questions from a guy named Michael.
There you go. What's up, Michael? Anyway, the real Bitbull.
Hey, yo, man. How are you?
Hey,
you saw my good. You saw my tweet. My prediction is about 500,000 cars running FSD after this April trial ends. And my average miles per day, is about 20 miles. I take myself as an example and sample. Everyday family guy running grocery trips, going to work twice a week. Rest of the time work from home. So it's about 20 miles a day. That puts me about 500,000 times 20 would 10 million miles per day. Takes me about 100 days to hit another billion miles.
All right, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something.
Yep.
How is your walk going?
It is going great.
Yeah. It sounds like you're walking about 4 or 5 miles an hour.
Probably less than
Little,
that. 3.5,
little,
maybe.
little heavy. Yeah, little heavy breathing. Your heart rate is
Yep.
probably like 90 per minute, 100.
106. You're right on.
Ah, there you go.
I'm an old guy, man. My heart rate doesn't go up anymore. I have to run to peak it.
You sound young.
I'm middle aged.
All right.
Sounds like the bull is chewing grass.
It's funny because so I had to mute him, but it's funny because Wes also goes on walks. I used to go on walks in this space. Anyway, and now we have somebody who's taking baths during the space.
I know you commented. What do you think, Yaman, about where I am with 500,000 cars after this April trial?
Maybe a little higher than that, but let's go to Xander real quick. I'm gonna just read what I respond to first. Xander. Xander, you're on me.
Yeah, when I was coming up on stage, what did he say doesn't go up anymore?
His heart rate.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Man, you are not letting us miss machine.
Who's that? Is that the guy that can't make a good joke?
And Xander, when do you think we're gonna get to? What kind of general thoughts about the subscription price, the free trial? How do you think the miles will progress going forward?
I postulate that they kind of kept the price high until they were in a place where they were looking for more data and were able to handle it with the compute constraint that they had. So I think now is the time where they go for the finish line and never mind the impacts of dropping the price of subscription. And also hooking people and steering them towards subscription makes a lot of sense for not not having people be buying it outright if the long-term effect is indeed to be able to own it and monetize your vehicle. So the impact, I think, is that you will have a higher take rate. It is half price. It is unfortunate for some owners like myself who need to sell a car with FSD, and I wonder what that will look like. Yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your entire question, but
That's all right. It's good to have you on the board. All right, and we have another anecdotal evidence. So I welcome anecdotal evidence on this topic because we have no data whatsoever. Olivier Valet says, I live in Australia, purchased FSD 3 years ago, hoping it would be available soon. I spoke to a friend who lives in California and received the FSD trial on his Model Y long range. I asked him if he would consider subscribing to $99 per month. He said no, because he doesn't want to pay for something that still requires attention, nag, eye tracking, etc. I think a lot of people will try it and maybe go back to autopilot for free for the bulk of their driving. Yeah. Is that
yeah, I'd like to offer a counter to this whole like nag argument. In that my wife, who hated V11, uh, recently stated, and I posted about it, uh, how she actually prefers FSD now, because the cognitive load is just lower. Now, it's not perfect and it doesn't run around traffic the way that she does. And so she takes over, and Meta and I had a little back and forth regarding the numbers that I posted of actual miles driven by her on both vehicles. She takes one to the gym when the kids aren't around, and other places, runs errands with it to keep the miles down on the Model X. She takes the Model Y, but you can see the data. It's about 88, 89% on both vehicles over the last month. And I think that you're starting to see this more and more often, where V12 is so good that people are more inclined to use it. And you know, it will take the market to be educated on what it means to have autopilot on the freeways, or what it means to sit there and just supervise. And is that more of a strain on the person versus actually driving? I'm driving the Cybertruck now. Now it's fun, and I don't want to, like, I kind of like that I don't have FSD because I'm forced to drive it in the beginning. But after some time, and even that, you'll want to have FSD, do the drive, and you can just chill. There's a lot to this that you can only figure out by experience and getting seat time with FSD. And I think that that's very smart of how Tesla played it.
Xander, when do you think Tesla will get to 2 billion miles?
Oh, I mean, that's just throwing darts. I don't even want to answer that. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I agree with everything you said. It's just that I think the average user looks at it a little differently. I think people just kind of say, "Can I check my text?" No. Okay, well then I'm not going to use it. That's the end of their analysis.
Fair. That's a fair point. However, like, I think everyone is so extreme. My business partner, who didn't have FSD, he has a Model 3. He is using the thing, and he just says, "When can I go in the back of the car and sleep?" So it's like, anecdotally, yes, everyone wants to just be able to trust the car, but I think there's a difference between excuse me. I think that there's a road that we all have to go down to acquire the trust of getting in a car and be able to check the texts, and um, and not worry that you're going to get into a crash. There's a lot of trust that has to be built up over time, and I think that takes time.
All right, we have about 5 minutes to go. 5 minutes to go. Let's go around. I want to get Xander's views on upcoming earnings. We have 9 days left for the earnings call. I wonder if Xander, I mean, obviously you follow the company very closely. You also participate in other spaces and YouTube channels, etc. What's kind of the general expectation you have for next week's earnings call?
I would say the way that the stock has reacted, the sentiment seems to be that we're not gonna go up and be all bullish. But then again, I don't think it says your connection was lost and you're reconnecting. So I don't know if
I hear you. Xander, I hear you.
gain going into these earnings, but it's really going to depend on what they're going to say and what they're going to guide for. I think the big move down is priced in. The Robotaxi announcement is it, it has huge implications. So it really depends. If they give a little bit of something that Wall Street can model, I think you can have flatness or maybe a slight increase. I don't see the stock like cratering because everyone kind of gets it where we are today.
Got it. Any final words from the board? Please unmute yourself and go ahead and This space is financed by my patrons. If you like the sports space, the link is at the top of your screen. It's that simple. Would you like to kind of? Oh, sorry, Michael, go ahead.
About earnings, I have a itching feeling that they're going to talk about crossing the 1,000 per week threshold on Cybertruck, and they will definitely be talking about miles and how that's their data need now, and they're going to talk about how they're going to make a lot of progress with these disengagement data and the miles. I think that's going to be
Okay,
their
great.
kind of focus away from the gross margin story, which is going to be horrible.
I agree. And in the coming spaces, we're definitely going to focus on earnings probably every day going forward, unless there's some big news. Claudia, go ahead.
Yeah, you've been talking a lot about, okay, well, when are we going to get to 2 billion miles, whether it's 3 months or 7 months. But I think the bigger question is, do we get to 3 billion miles faster than we get from 1 to 2 billion miles? So that's going to tell us whether take rates are increasing or whether they're going to be able to expand. So I think that would be probably a much more better discussion, because obviously 2 billion miles, it's a bit speculation on how much time. But I think if you can see every next billion miles come faster, I think that's a good sign for progress. So I was wondering if anyone had any predictions on that. I think that's like a good bet to probably look forward to.
All right. And it's that simple as the final word.
And more of a quick question regarding what matters most here is what these miles mean, right? Does anyone know a rough estimate on what people think is needed to develop it to be close to Robotaxi ready? Like, is the number 10 billion? Is it 5 billion? I think Elon said around 5 or 6.
That's a very good question. No, he said in the part their master plan, he meant 6 billion for regulatory approval. He didn't mean for. And by the way, those are autopilot miles, so we're way past that point.
Exactly.
But,
yeah, exactly.
But the development, nobody knows, right? Nobody on Earth knows how many miles will be needed. And the thing is, even if you have the miles, are you going to have the training compete? Do you have the software architecture correct? Do you have the processes correct? So many things will have to fall in line. So I don't think we can dig into this next time a little bit more when Meta is here, Wes is here, Machine is here, probably tomorrow, Omar is here. And so on that note, this space is sponsored by my patrons. We are here 2 p.m. Central every weekday and sometimes on weekends as well. I try to kind of open it up. Tomorrow, obviously, we're going to get some headwinds from the Iran attack. Who knows how the market is going to close, but it's going to be a volatile day. I'm looking at the early data right now for the markets. We're down about, actually, they're up about 20 basis points. Dow, S&P 500, NASDAQ 100 futures are up slightly. I think Asian stocks fell, according to a Bloomberg article. Crude oil is down about 50 basis points to $85 per barrel. So interesting data. Tomorrow, we'll be back. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your evenings. I'll talk to you next time.